Growing up in a children's home, devoid of love, sets a tragic tone for our protagonist's life. A painful question lingers. Will he ever find recognition in a world that feels foreign? Despite it all, he pledges to dedicate his life to serving the country. Yet, resentment towards his father clouds his education, leading to rebellion. But everything changes the moment he witnesses a death that transforms his existence. Such a life-altering event begs the question, what path will he choose now? As he reflects on his choices, the weight of his past looms large. Can he break free? With the shadows of his upbringing and his father's expectations, the struggle intensifies. A storm brews as he faces the haunting memories that threaten to consume him. What emerges from this chaos will define not just his future, but the legacy he leaves behind. Starting to realize that things aren't as simple as those deserted area reports. His brother used to be a national competition officer, a role filled with complexities. Who is the national competition officer? They are at the forefront of the fight. Reclaiming land and keeping the economy from falling out of line is no easy task. Despite the challenges, he had to face countless disadvantages. He was often ripped off by the guild's rules but never gave up, and even had long periods of being taken advantage of. But he was persistent, committed to his chosen path. After the departure of Mr. ZG Zhu, a turning point emerged. He decided to turn back and become a true inspector, with the goal of clarifying the concerns about the matter. Then a real national police officer stepped in. During the monk ceremony, he gained significant insights. He learned that he held important grounds in his hands. But then, an incident occurred without a monitoring system. Important data stored on the vehicle disappeared mysteriously. Raising suspicions of foul play, the tension escalates. An important data incident raises suspicions of foul play, hinting at deeper conspiracies at work. The stakes are rising, and the truth is about to unfold. With a few remaining clues, including torn books and a US official. Even though the police believe that an invisible hand has intervened even more deeply. The matter of deciding to discuss is crucial. As they try to transfer the books of civil enterprises, hidden signs of irregularities emerge. With the determination to continue his unfinished work, the protagonist's resolve strengthens. B's performance in the spring was better than expected. Even though he quickly overcame other candidates, he was assigned a significant debt case. This case involves a famous baseball player, raising the stakes tremendously. The amount is staggering, up to 2 billion, making it a high-stakes situation. And this new yen is about to leave the country, complicating matters further. This fight makes his subordinates miserable due to the complicated relationships involved. On the same day, he admits to having taken charge, making it a test of his abilities. On the same day, despite actively taking charge, complications arise. His straightforward approach, however, places him in a precarious situation, making it both curious and an opportunity to test his abilities. With a working style that does not engage in dishonesty, he faces significant hurdles. As he navigates this complex landscape, will he succeed or fail? I declare that the previous violation caused the opponent to find a way to be lenient. Even though he encountered many difficult situations, he still maintained his stance of refusing all secret proposals. Skillfully collect evidence. The other department must choose between completing all financial cases or facing the harsh legal consequences. When all routes are blocked, the remaining members must finally accept the dialogue according to the rules. Quanzong's sway proves that the important path is not just to correct the mistakes in fruition. Wearing it is my way of answering all the previous questions that have been answered for many years. I want to ask for a reduction in money because the truth is that at that time it was still the same no matter how old I was. It's not always possible to get 1 billion wins, especially when you only need one more win and then you have to fly to America in a hurry. So trying hard is a waste of energy, let alone thinking of a way to make enough money in such a short amount of time. In conclusion, this opportunity presented an opportunity that had been used by him when supporting these businesses before. Because Zhong Suo has connections with some foreign products where the original item is not a local branch. It is a legal proposition that money for green karma has a money that is not limited to the power of the two parties sharing the profits with each other in an agreed ratio. Right now, America still has one final match in Korea. The chance ratio of this match is so high that right away you can see the bottom, but it's also attractive. Just wait for the ball to not land the expected result. If he bets about 1 million market, the amount of money earned can reach 2 billion. The fifth problem is that this athlete wants to leave the country in a position to expose his beautiful image in the eyes of the public. I just don't want to leave any scars in my career. which has been very well established. Zhuangzi the saint said that if you do not pay enough, then transfer the power to the edge is to control the fate of luck and career. You can also encounter unforeseen misfortunes. After a while of considering how to save money and the future, he finally decided to follow Zhuangzi's origin. After a long period of time, causing many people to question the case related to the athlete's position, it was finally resolved. It's just when everything gets boring that you realize you've been led from the beginning to the end by the parachute. The result is both loss of money and legal liability. Although the time has finally passed, enough information has left the authorities with no reason to continue investigating further. The podium radiated great enthusiasm when it discovered a multi-line employee. Because it is not easy to find someone who both understands and knows the intricacies of such complicated situations. And from here on, even though the line's career begins to advance with such importance, there is someone who is willing to open a good path ahead. 4 years later, even though the people in charge of the country's life quickly learned the familiar moral lessons that everyone who practices these days knows by heart. But in a meeting where he thought the school was sad, he paid special attention to the exhibition area committee and 2 deputy exhibition officials. Because I was sad 5 times following the rumors related to my father's case. Even though the order knew they were very afraid of this woman, they were the most important officers who wanted to reveal the whole story of the past. The first person the order sought to approach was the deputy director of KDrama, who was being considered a ready candidate for the position of director of the next career department. However, if the current director of the situation stands in opposition and sides with the deputy director, the West will gradually decline as if there were no way out. The parachutist seemed extremely confident that he could help the West to deal with the deputy director of the medal. But even though I've said a lot about Don Zutzun's preferences, I still can't completely believe that he needs more time to think about it. After leaving the office, T-Zun accidentally encountered the deputy director. The 2 people, who were competing for the position of director, looked at each other as sharp as rice. The song Mia Mai was released and everyone easily followed a different direction as if they had never known each other. Because that night, Zhongzed returned to the 1st department to collect special items for work. Because Zun asked him to come to the 5th department to conveniently observe his ability to work in a more complex environment. After 4 years of working at the station, the relationship between the general and the director was said to be very good. She knew that the first version was the same even though she came here to investigate herself because 4 years ago, she was also present at the scene of the accident involving his ministry. She once gave her the opportunity to express what was in her heart, but after a long time of working together, even though he understood that she was not a crocodile, he just smiled and said that he had no more questions. I hope the exhibition continues to work well and keep it in mind. Leaving behind is an experience that brings with it a bit of ambiguity because it feels like you know more than you ever said. Waiting for his return home, his rooms were filled with all the things he had gathered over the past 4 years. His father's first selling goal was to gather power, but the result was that his father was set up by his father's old interests and had to summon and to prison ever since. Even though you have created this old name, in your heart you consider it as an undue debt, waiting for enough time to automatically be paid. Little Long into the Storm of Love supports these green karma so that it attracts the intention of old noble people. Just like the 2 sides came together to cooperate and help, even though they had important information about the noble corporation, they immediately returned to inform their father. But he told his son not to put his hands on his hat and complete everything himself. No matter what difficulties he faced, he did not waver. That drifting thought causes storms even though it is extremely peaceful and peace disappears in the storm. Without knowing that was the last time father and son would have the chance to talk to each other. Returning to the stormy reality without asking questions, he calmly passed on information about the year where I will go to work tomorrow. A vulnerable unit is a place that receives all kinds of chaos. But maybe it reminds me to pay attention to a person who believes that eating in the long room is likely to be rare. Just look at your past income and expenditure books to see if there are any unusual signs. But the company was held back by the odds, not allowing it to develop. Mr. Zhong, although officially accepted at the meeting here, was no different from a new ball with many problems in the project, trying to stay as far away from the market as possible and was welcomed by the project chief with ease. Because of the momentum of the storm, umbrellas have spread throughout the industry with the image of a person who works unconventionally and is extremely controlling. The boss of the middle-class court told him the most important things to do when there was a storm, even though he was cleaning up the office and reorganizing the documents properly. Then suddenly she saw Hyari coming alone because of work because she couldn't understand the busy life. The place called Rational History looks back and treats people like they themselves are enlightened. Using the power of the thunderstorm, Hai always felt extremely strict and decided to help with his resignation letter. Because we believe that as long as the storm is still here, the new year will have a completely different face. At that time, Kwong had an affair with a reporter specializing in emotional affairs. Ta wanted to release an article to explain the fact that the joint president of a pharmaceutical company, how much will be a serious violation of the situation and will take advantage of people's ignorance. However, this room produces quite a few members right behind the general chairman, Tae-dung. This is also the real goal of Mrs. Ta's deputy leader, who wants to attack the president directly and completely restore Tae-dung's position. The prepared documents are all investigative documents detailing the difficult activities of the chairman in recent times. From the officer's point of view, everything is actually just missing one step. Soy believes that breathing out smoke shows that the chapter president has no way to argue. VTA, he also witnessed previous ambushes at home because of this president. Thus, the Stone watches a TV show endlessly until they see that his lover will follow a high-ranking official to the same house. But that hidden secret, even if it doesn't need to be like a master, is enough to make people believe that the hidden behavior is probably trying something that is not convenient to make public. According to the very old chains of the room before that night, not believing that he would commit a crime would also cause people to lose sleep. He waited until morning but suddenly saw his mistress leave and immediately followed. The relative asked if she brought it to the chapter president. Even though she acknowledged her sincerity and respect for the news, no one believed her. They drank and came to the official at the chapter president's house to demand that he take responsibility for the damage that had been caused. Tae-du looked at the news and his heart felt like it was on fire, while the president of the chapter walked back and forth, not giving up on the heat. Fong had no other way to call this woman's police officer to ask for help, but everyone knows that the situation is that the person standing in the middle, acting as a bridge between the West and the president, can be loyal to the point of death and can turn into a solution. The audience told Chan and that as long as he cleans up all the hidden traces, there's nothing the world can do. Having finished speaking, he returned to the office and asked the school department to find a way to re-examine the incident personally from the 5th department. Because this was originally a religious record that had been moved a long time ago, no one seems to be reasonable. At the same time, Oing also went to meet with the Anshin FEP school department to continue handling the case of Angsong School Center chairman's protest as a reminder to do everything quietly. Because at this point, just one more big movement will cause the whole system to have another headache. But people who like Chuang people, the committee just kept people coming to President Chuang's uncle's house, but people discovered them. Not thinking about not objecting, but also Xiao family's hope that this year will help them regain the justice they have lost. The inspection took place from the living room to the kitchen staff, from the wall to the lower wall. Examine almost every angle. The results were still 0 until an investigator discovered that the age box she looked at opened and found only important things that no one wanted to touch. The chapter chairman was happy inside, but on the outside there were still a few weak people who were being misunderstood. The tax officer could only stand and watch helplessly. After being led to believe that the lie had shaken hands with the chapter chairman, they went from the region and checked just in time to receive a call from the Trung Security Department. Following the long bridge, they immediately dispersed because the meeting was already closed enough and they had to reluctantly agree, until everyone had not yet had time to leave when an umbrella storm appeared to ask the chapter president in a gentle voice. But his eyes were not at all benevolent when it came to giving out information about his history. That, a month of speculation that the money was not in the dark but was resting in places no one expected. The chairman's face immediately changed, and when a wall was opened, what was inside was revealed. The entire school system has experienced a long-standing death and destruction within just a few chapters. I can no longer maintain my loveliness, but all verbal efforts now become painful when the truth has revealed itself to everyone. The line of umbrellas walked outside with cloth curtains filled with pride while the surrounding people burst into flames. Partly, Young stood from afar with the young people following him, witnessing that a chapter president had to face questions that were not easy to answer. Although he was still stubborn and refused to say anything more than just a withering reminder, silence is sometimes not the safest advantage, leaving behind a chaos. Yi and Yang continued to follow along the road and were recognized by the bald man. Then he himself collapsed when he discovered that he was under a situation he had forgotten until now. Outside the stadium, Yang was surprised even though he had just confessed that he had somewhat exposed the truth. I've just mentioned that when working in the city department, I should more or less discuss with my superiors and seniors so that my emotions can be resolved. Done. Even though I don't care much, I think that a place that has already revealed its identity will show you more and it won't change its nature. But waiting for the afternoon, in the eyes of the people, he was the one who brought a sense of justice. Mixing with the habit of saying thank you makes the river, no matter how vague it is, have to reveal it when a slight change occurs. The situation is that it sounds like a long time ago. After watching this post, I decided to take advantage of this new group. Until the school desk supervisor Sohan told Cao Cao that he had tracked down each spirit system shadow between the president's headquarters and the school's affairs. The deputy did not rush to react but chose to be more cautious because her real goal was much further than this, which she just kept in her mind without saying it out loud. Especially when Sohan has a special relationship with Tae Dun. In another place, Tae Dun received the first incident revealed, so he was furious and knew that for the rest of his life. Curious that even a simple move wouldn't be important, he could only bow his head and admit his mistake, prostrate himself in the VE Zoom kettle and then ask his subordinates to evaluate the storm even though Koi was a factor that was both dangerous, and effective. The person who is followed in the next book so that everything remains in the final direction has been arranged by the school bureaucrat. Then he brings with him the urge to go to the trial to ease his mind and open up new feelings that are still ahead. He ordered the school's criminal investigation team to find a way to defy the school's people and search the school president's house. Yet the Attorney General of Anxai still has all the power to plan for getting sick so quickly it's like a case of no cake. Commander and also did not expect the parachute to appear at such a sensitive time. So turn around and only know what your head is like, scold at once to relieve your anger, then look at the governor and drink it easily. If only the Chancellor outside had accidentally been forced by the parachute to step on him and play on his behalf, it would have been a strong move in the plan that the parachute was about to kill first. Not long after that, thunderstorms appeared in the sky to announce the year's achievements. Even though you don't want to go to the exhibition, you still have to smile in front of the room's respectful staff. Even though there is a storm, there is an opportunity to show a more proud demeanor than a younger generation. Everyone already said hello. A few sentences made the atmosphere more lively. Yi Ari, Iodine wishes so much that the child and room cry out loud, because in her mind, that promoted position should have belonged to her. Just a few days into work, I already received an award from my co-workers who were all talking about it. Again, I made everyone feel more embarrassed by frankly admitting that everyone present was not competent enough. You even took EA's resignation letter. Yang concluded that just having a little difficulty and wanting to take a break is really quite sensitive. Respect the whole room right away, but in my heart I'm both frustrated and don't know how to argue with my head because I thought carefully about the line, even though I didn't say anything wrong. That is to say, he wanted to use this method to stimulate the fighting spirit of his colleagues, which was just a bit of an overhanded way. It seems that OE is angry and dragging the line even though it appears to be a self-explanatory statement. I think that young people should learn how to work. No matter what, if they work in the same office and don't respect each other, it's very difficult to coordinate for a long time. Even though he still maintains his natural position, he naturally believes that OE's ready-to-eat food is not good and that the food itself is fully capable of handling those challenges. This statement makes OE even more frustrated when there are more strings. You guys need to wait until everything goes through. Actually, it's not that Ouyang lacks the spirit to work, but because is always being bullied by the school department, not given the opportunity to show off in a year that is not only a place full of difficult tasks, but also a barrier for international corners to pick out. The cases that other events transferred to here were all pre-arranged, not because the 5th department didn't want to handle them, but because they weren't allowed to touch them. Zhong Zhu, as a matchmaker, does not know these things. So we accidentally broke the balance that the people behind had so willingly planned for. So director An Zhao gave Oang the cases of life control though. Fong let him continue to surround the detectors. Otherwise none of them would be able to print the nest during that time. Westerners are having a meal, peeling calamari, and wondering, why did this old leak have the data that the deputy investigator gave to the reporter in the previous scandal? Revealing the past information, it was revealed that the person behind the arrest of the joint chairman was the deputy investigator. But Tae clearly understood that this matter could not be resolved on February 1, so he temporarily put it aside to consider the long distance. Even so, you still don't get used to reminding yourself that if you lead the way deeply into the secrets of the present group, the consequences will not be small. After finishing speaking, Tae was just silent because he had many thoughts in his mind. At the same time, he went to find a senior who was once his father's colleague. I would like to ask about the investigation related to your piano practice 15 years ago, but as soon as 2 million was mentioned, those seniors quickly left. I immediately followed, took out a plate and wondered if the people appearing in that picture knew the truth about the 12th year of marriage given by the party. Hi there, Yang is talking to his boyfriend and recounting the recent events. She is extremely warm-hearted even though she is just a matchmaker because she despises her. Hello boyfriend. Yang is in a bad mood, but you're an honest person. Just do what the blind guy tells you to do. Yang immediately understood that she was going to do what she wanted to do, which was to help others. So, hi Ari. Yang brought some money to the hospital and deposited it in a patient's drawer. His wife was one of the president's confidants. Hi Ari. Yang accidentally met him the other day. The insider was burned by the president and lost all his money, leading to the loss of money. Hyung's pregnant wife was about to follow, but luckily Hyung suddenly told the police that she had become a member of the family. Pai realized that Hyung discovered that there was also a bag of money in the fruitage. She went outside to see who brought it, but she didn't expect it to be Yu Yang. The Sangha regrets not being able to deal with the general chairman sooner, causing some people to become extremely angry. It turns out that Yu Yang also has a conscience. Hyung is extremely happy because there are all good people around her. After that, Yang went to an evening restaurant and accidentally walked behind the PII umbrella line. Yang, as the owner of the restaurant, brought it to the village with a straight face and was not immediately caught by the umbrella line. The parachute continued to talk. Yang Hai A. Yang drank a whole liter and said all the wishes in his heart. In the past few years, she has been working at the department and last year had a good record because there were no 10 cases of destruction. So when new people come, they have to be like-minded even though they're equal to serving in front of their egotistical son, Hai A, Yang, and everyone else. So Yang started to cry, even though he was about to turn around and apologize, but there was no one there. She collapsed in the village. Understanding her poor quality, Jiam was wearing boots alone. Even though he had to take Yang back to the water management office. Afterwards, Yang fell in love with the silver-faced cloth, not knowing why she was here. She remembered that it had only happened like this, only to have the momentum to escape. So, Yang went to find her, even though she was both grateful and apologetic, even though she was also a straightforward person, she gave it to her. Yang had to buy me a meal when she snatched the bill. Because he immediately agreed to welcome a noble person after the year, he asked to meet his successor. It turns out that although the high-ranking Mandarin received a powerful USB every year about the passing of the governor of Li, year 12. Selling like a noble person has no intention of feeling that you are not capable of revealing the truth. But when he saw the parachute on TV, he felt a glimmer of hope for the case to be overturned. The defendant recounted in the year 6. He also reduced the number of employees working in the company of female staff, i.e. the Quality Committee, which is a store of the rights of the deceased. The company started planning to open 2 stores in 8 years, but suddenly flipping the old and new each quarter speeds up the process, leading to higher franchise fees. If the president tries to avoid using that money, it's sad and the cost of receiving rights looks like a good person is high and the director stubbornly disagrees. The shell decides that a single person will be able to rise to the top of the world according to the deputy wife, and will be able to know that happiness and peace. So the third department took charge. They immediately ended the security case and now the deadline to try to turn it over is almost over. For the most part, there still needs to be evidence. Just relying on the words of good people cannot conduct an investigation. A good person who likes to be generous, even if the bat enters the private house, shouldn't just ignore this case like that. After a few words of encouragement from Hai Ari, even though he decided to change to a good person, he placed his trust in the line even though he came here. Even if there is a hope, you still have to do it until a good person advertises the line even before USB. Whatever needs to be said, he will say the rest even though he can figure it out on his own. Good people only feel hatred and blame for Governor Lee because they are cowardly. After that, even though he had us BVC alone, he discovered that he had a decreased appetite that was hidden in his colds. If the president calls him that in addition to having a good and loyal single and her face asks the governor, who else is his partner, he wants to cover for you so stay quiet. If the president is so angry that the country will come to the head of the governor and ask him for help, he will completely be able to get rid of these things. However, the manager suddenly saw something. He used the gold to exchange the video and it was all gone here. Finally, wanting to have more strength, so many times, Yang came to the investigation because they were the ones who handled the case 5 years ago. At the meeting, Yang met Dan Dan in Gay-an, a sweet girl who wanted to share the case documents of food. Dan Dan's face immediately changed. He refused Yang and left. Then the group returned to inform the police that the police were investigating his food. Trung Fong CAC didn't want to have the secret from 5 years ago exposed, so he planned to deceive the year. In the countryside, Now I can't find any information about food, so I'm going to go online to confidently understand. Fong later had quite a bit of information and immediately brought it to the office for everyone to see. Unexpectedly, he was waiting here and asked to re-advertise this case to her. If they had made a mistake in their investigation 5 years ago, they would have done it themselves. Everyone in the profession should not improve from the mistakes of their colleagues. Duong wanted to protest, but in the end, he threw away his words. "Oh, I knew this was going to happen and I had absolutely no idea after the police investigation ended, even though I was sure it would be a mistake. Oh, he let the martial arts case be blinded. Oh, he just smiled and lied and left. Actually, he had already prepared another plan. Even though he didn't want to let it go easily, he immediately went outside to make a new plan. At the same time, the parachute line also planned to show customers how to dress their colleagues in food and clothing to collect data and documents. So, hello. Yang shows everyone the reason why he's so stubborn. Even when he was scolded by the female chief scolding his son, he saw that he had all rushed back to his father and left the camp. The director stubbornly followed but could not make it in time. After that, the governor remained stubborn. I received a rumor from the public that he passed away on his own, but people around him did not believe this story. The deputy went together to the Austrian food court to investigate the incident. At this time, the deputy brought back the documents they obtained from the raid. Now someone discovered that the flower in the pine tree was filled with white flowers and was forced to play with the doctor. His anger immediately gathered as much force as he could to the food shirt. On the other side, the 5th round arrived one step ahead of the 3rd round, but they still arrived one day, receiving internal information that they had brought the main 4th base because it was almost over. Young came to the door of the female president's room. When she saw that the smell was gone, she immediately broke through the river mouth and took out some water, but only got the strong residue that was easily left in the hole. The phone was also soaked and the woman in the water looked at it. Yang, with a defiant look on his face, was extremely angry then. Yang went to the financial department and the media here was researched into some documents about the media. The security camera was also wiped out and is being replaced. I have been completely unable to find any evidence. Yang hurriedly called Thunder even though his plan was half done, but Thunder still had hope. Suddenly, someone from half the room appeared. Zhang advised the people of the situation to retreat. These cases have been announced by superiors for investigation. When he caught him, he immediately threatened to stop him from going over the phone. If the line is still acting, it's a hole in the room code. It is possible that this missing order will appear even though it will require investigation. The old man thought for a moment and said 2 words, "Tell me," and then hung up. The school's arrest officer couldn't wait to get out even though he turned around and tried to get angry at the staff. I also doubt that everyone is not afraid of being caught by the school department. It turns out that Young going to beat his senior in round 3 was also part of his plan. One thing he knows is that spreading rumors causes a panic in the relationship. Yet, like no matter who Young see the report at the main of Food Austria that I found in the price of this thing. The wind is stubborn, brought to the meeting 5 years ago to organize standardized food products. Then, the cockroach returned it to the female chairwoman, causing the stubborn cockroach to take a beating. On the corner of the report, there is still water stains on the head of the female riverhead, pretending to be water in Li Ban Vong. After her departure, she started investigating Austrian food. They collected a lot of data, including official reports, is the corner plate and the rest is the pole plate. However, she didn't touch it and ended up cheating on her clothes with clean clothes, especially foreign stains. If you review the document many times, there's no reason it's still there. After that, the 3rd brought all the trace documents to the public in the 5th, until now the case was overturned. The 3rd ended up rediscovering the documents, unintentionally creating an opportunity for the insider to complete the porridge, so the 3rd admitted it was all clear, not their storm. However, everything is still in the storm's calculations to find the insider in the 3rd game. This, especially from the room level, can make a decision on the end of the project looking at the other side of the storm, whether coming to the door or coming out of CUC's life. In it, a workshop on choosing a green career for the world took place, exemplary including Ote done food for early consumption. He opened the door first and then entered in front of everyone's shocked eyes. He strongly stated that O Food and the industries related to it do not deserve this long period of time, because it's a local company, but the officer intends to pull the line even though it's easy outside. The podium leader asked him to continue speaking even though he was allowed to present evidence. To confirm his claim, the director of the Austrian food company was accused of being the boss of the company, but was suspected by the female chairman of the deputy directorate. If he was the organizer, he had to hide the reason why the director of the company was discovered, even though he immediately found out that there was someone in collusion with Austrian foods. Trungjiang Podium stood up to object because the card was the Austrian Food Investigation Unit. Having said that, whoever named their leader wanted to change the situation by filing a lawsuit. The country returned to the year and arbitrarily investigated the king, not knowing his stomach, but finished the inspection and cleared the green shirt food, then stood here and spoke spiritually. Don't want everyone to look at the point of wearing Su, the year of suddenly being able to buy clothes but not getting any evidence. The high-ranking company's intelligence agencies reported that this morning the food store was still operating normally due to the short shelf life. Like to millions of 5 words where the company is still in the process of handling, whether the thing is transferred to say that it is too much because that scene determines the wind has an insider informing the food shirt. The above 2 argued for a while, but suddenly felt like they wanted to end the meeting and leave this matter to the supervisory board to investigate. There is a karma examination that investigates both the 3rd and 5th lives to ensure that the 5th life has actually gone against its original destiny. But if the wind is caused by the region, you must take responsibility for all the consequences. Even though Zhong did not want to leave another region, he decided to arrest the police chief and persuaded me to follow his instructions. Everyone waited for the peaceful awakening, but they did not expect him to actually stand up and receive all his karma. He suddenly came out even though he knew that the director of the case was told by the director that he would let his head marry the communist. He still waited patiently for an opportunity to counterattack. Good luck at today's meeting. I wish you all the best for the director. The judge sent a message to the person saying that he was being told by the director. Treason. The parachute line used the general strategy to ask the director to stand down. About his luck, he chose a day to cry and decide. The director was so angry that he decided to marry the director later. The light betrayed me. All eyes turned to the 2 of them. Stage Chief Zhang realized he was a bit emotional and quickly let go and apologized. The 2 chiefs would take over the investigation according to the correct procedure. Now, Thunderstorm wants to ask for one more thing so that Department 5 can participate in the Austrian food case. If they hadn't discovered the general, the case would have been completely filed by the Department of 8 bottles. The podium leader agreed to the Storm's request, but he had one condition. He had to let the judge kill everyone. Even though the Storm is happy, the government still wants to test the judge's ability. Thunderstorm quickly pulled Oang away and they had to find evidence before the case expired. According to the Thunderstorm, the director speculated that it was the wind that he saw today. Oang told Dong that even though there was no evidence, any confusion would become a duty. Although Thunder wanted to go to the places the director said he often traveled to find the documents he had hidden. Suddenly, the spirit detector appeared and immediately detected the movements of the parachute and Oang. He wanted to advise everyone not to do anything less, so he followed the director and told him to wait for a long time. But he could not contact them for any information regarding AU food. Even though it is better to ignore certain details, if even the supervisory board is ignored. So don't believe it even though you might have to be the director easily. Now, O eats back confidently and believes that his father's play has only just begun for him to give out long likes. After the company used to discuss everything, she was investigated from an investigation into corruption into an internal corruption investigation. Those who have everything to do with their boss should just let their children stay away and then become a little more subtle. On the other side, the female staff and the 5th officer were arguing over the difficulty of storing food documents for vaccination. There was a document missing from the schoolroom. When they received a call, Khan immediately asked his subordinates to return to take over the investigation. The lower year department was drawn at whether Hai Ari Yang and his colleagues entered the green fever. The love has no results because within 5 years, the concubine has been lost. The security department posted in the security department also did not detect anyone carrying the documents below. Peeling Colonel Hai Ari Yang thought of a possibility of being tasted through the gender window. In case of danger down there, several deputy bureaucrats were involved to check the security cameras first. The company station discovered that the school's vehicle had appeared at a reasonable time. Suspicious. The camera in the parking lot also recorded the scene of the emergency room. A large box loaded into the car could have contained documents. Now, he immediately informed the school office about the times that someone had taken the corner documents. At the same time, the suitor also received a call from the school, and the students knew they were under suspicion, so many of them offered to help. The schoolroom is on its way to the supervisory board. He will explain everything to the bride. Zomsu also wanted to participate in the marriage ceremony but did not agree. Because he believes that the year is incompetent, he should leave this matter to the supervisory board. Yang was excited again to see who would find out the reason first. Yang turned around and walked into the storm even though he quickly followed. The wind kiss only knows how to bloom women. In fact, before that, the wind kiss was called Din Can Fake. His attitude was very straightforward. He had to find the medicinal herbs before the storm even if he hid it until the security period expired. West used the storm umbrella to go to work, but his smile awakened his determination to compete with the wind kissing him. Because in the past, when we were still friends, the kisser always lost even though in every aspect this time he was not allowed to take revenge anymore. Other diseases like this are on the way back to their subordinates, so why not even if they cause lies like that? Do not worry about them. He even wants to create a chance for them. Be calm about the sudden development of Oang and the year beyond the world's expectations. He didn't know what the exhibition was trying to do. The vice president also asked the same question for the exhibition because the next day he released this card so early. Fuck Tryon has his own intelligence. He wants Oang to have a chance to practice before preparing for the next move. Deputy Kak Kim's thread will be numbed and crushed like the last time. This time, Ouyang will be able to do it this time. Ouyang will not be able to return to his life in the village. The police have confiscated all the documents here. Even if you ask Ouyang like that, how will you continue to investigate? Ouyang still has a carefree attitude even though he is extremely vulnerable. Just when the team members returned to the office, they reported the evidence to Ouyang. He asked to take it to the magic room to see if anything could be recovered, because the old man's shirt destroyed these things, which in themselves must be very important, even though each Oang had abandoned its face. An account continues to remind the line even though we are looking for food records and documents of the supervisory board. What I took just now had no effect. A colleague looked at the lover and took the books away, saying that the police department had now gone to the supervisory board to defend himself. They will definitely be torn apart on Oang, half human, half human. In Casepack is nothing more than a pawn. It's even helping to convince people that they don't need to pay attention to the school and prevent other benefits from being investigated. Although he spoke his mind, he still had doubts about the future. Now, if that's the case, he will hide the book somewhere, maybe his house or famous real estate. Oh, he had prepared books and books. He ordered everyone to split up and search these places, and they all found them immediately. On the other side of the schoolroom, they were explaining to the wind the scent of red kisses about the school's meeting at the water meeting. Quickly ask the school department to arrest the careless food and get a few boxes. Saying it's a double barrel, in case you catch someone, you'll be caught unfairly. Along with the Longdang and the female president's careless food, there is no doubt about the whole house. The arrester didn't even open it to see if he could trust the school to catch fake soldiers later. He told the Sogan to take the guitar on the screen and check the wind after checking, or the Sogan's instrument would be returned to the table. Honestly, the school staff caught nothing unusual. He was confused by his colleague. The director told the director that the speaker was the leader. He has often admitted that the president of the country has prepared Austrian food in the style of lemongrass. When going out to eat and go golfing, the same thing happened, but they didn't accept bribes. After that, the director said they kept quiet and didn't say anything else. Gio decided to go to the interrogation room, and the director said that when he saw the change in his attitude, the kisser didn't dare ask more about her so that the director would tell her that in addition to testing cockroaches, when I went outside, I was surprised that the director immediately heard a voice coming from his shirt pocket. During the investigation by the supervisory board, voice calls will be recorded. This is the most reasonable dialogue Sohan can use to negotiate with the director. He gave the director the opportunity to reveal the position of the books in exchange for not making the director appear corrupt. Sohan knew well that the director had robbed a lot of people. He seemed confused and wanted to talk about the books. Sohan advised the director that there was no need to pretend that the school department had brought in boxes of food and clothing. His human cargo is still locked up in the office and hasn't moved anywhere yet, so he didn't want to inform the West that he had found the books. Normally, when he opened the inside of the box, it was truly a mess. I was so confused at that time that the director was able to explain the number of president's bets. Obedient, that's why God bless him. At this time, there were only a few hours remaining after the deadline for the ancestor's death. The yearly staff searched everywhere and still couldn't find the records because they are going in the wrong direction. At the office, OE also realized that she started to cheat so that she was wrong in the beginning. If the OE eats the substance, if a detail is quickly flowed into the pliers, it will be checked again and again in the report of the theft. The name of the report must not be recorded by the name of the accuser, but specifically sent to them. After looking through the report of the fight, The man accidentally said that the defendant had probably beaten the defendant in front of his subordinates when the defendant was out of bed. But when it comes to food, it's very simple to realize that the person who accused him is a food AU insider. Afterwards, at the end of the day, and informed the female chief of staff that she hid the contribution books and he took advantage of them. The opportunity to play the porridge version after the book before the bet is laid out for the three-way bet, and also urged the female president to bring goods to the market to make him a trader. Geomechanical suspicion. Everything that life has been planned for is so perfect that it just can't be overlooked. Lo Yang. When Lo Yang arrived at Trung and Mui's house, he waited for him to return. Oh Yang, and the main issue is whether he hid the financial records. Also located not often received. Oang took out the phone number, saying that Fapai has restored O Food's phone number. There is a regular number that Oang will immediately call, and that number is the local phone number in the Anslin school office. He had a habit of being embarrassed, but it turned out that Oang used his phone number to call the Food's phone number first. O could not recover the Trungan department, which often had to mistakenly accept all the books for Oang from afar. He called his subordinates to confiscate the books and then happily reported to the national trial. Just in time for the group trial period to end, everyone can try out the group. Then, like Tho and Hai Ari, Young came to Fudeo. They still wanted to find books to help decide to come here. Then, unexpectedly, Young discovered that the company's engine still had the same symbol as above, bottom, and bottom. Hi everyone, Young Doubt Austria Food asked the company to send the records, and had to go through a simple investigation to get the correct results. After the books were brought back to the company, they sent the food to Austria, asking them not to divide it into parts. Then people went to different delivery units. Then these units brought the books of food to Austria. It's very difficult to work the canal, but still can't escape the eyes of the water department staff. Not long after, although the female president of the Food AO Dai brought with her a sailor's request, she also found the books of the Food AO Co Envoy Corner. The female president had to accept the investigation of her career and was extremely angry, even though she secretly asked her to leave. Another time, Oeng went to meet Takao and offered him a US about. Inside is on the true appearance of the departure of the tenacious governor. Flowers appeared 5 years ago, when the patient's son suddenly had heart attack. At this moment, a colleague came and asked the governor to stay in the car to take the female president to the hospital. She was beaten up by the foreign partner on the way. On the way, the governor couldn't stand it and collapsed into the car. The female chairman did not call an ambulance but called the toilet to continue going out. Director Lai put his head down while hitting the chicken, causing the car to crash. The good man brought the video back to the company for everyone to see. He also posted a video on the internet of an angry woman beating up a good person. He took the form of a female resident and stopped everyone together, criticizing her for staying still and immediately leaving. At this time, no matter who he was, he went to Doc Lai's house to bring regular bait money to his wife and children. The boy didn't want to accept him, but he was still sure that if he hadn't stepped up to the plate, he would still be alive today. Nu Dung though understood his mood because he was also in that same situation. But I know one thing, if people are like those in charge, they will run amok. Anyone can be a victim of greed, but few people can resist it. Even though my mouth is like that, I feel extremely sad and simple. Our ancestors did not show off in front of others. They only knew how to cry alone. In the middle of the night, I used an umbrella and went to the 5th match when everyone had gone home. Even though the year was a failure, the security guard still hid here and appeared in the past year for sure. He was still hiding some secret. After a while of searching, he didn't find the same result even though he searched for it. Discovering that the fire controller had lost its battery, he immediately tried something inside the fire controller. Even if there is a book called reading, these tests will definitely create a big storm. On the other hand, Oeng was sitting at the restaurant thinking about some things in the past. Suddenly the wind bubble appeared and he was flowing everywhere like an umbrella. The reporter wanted to exchange information with Oeng. He mentioned some discoveries about the parachute line. He is the son of a controller who single-handedly fought against the tyranny of a corporation without incident 4 years ago. That day, even though his father was quite famous, Oeng still liked him. However, what is worth mentioning here is that the old umbrella line and the Western uncle are very close. The parachute line became a controller and worked at the 5th department. It was arranged that the Tae Dun Oeng and Tae Dun had an insurance to come here to join the parachutist line and take the piano books. At this time, Tizun came to the country's trial. He was worried about the assassination of Tizun's body. He probably asked his subordinates to share this matter later. The subordinates could only apologize and say that if this news did not leak out, the country would still be able to maintain its dignity. But Tizun has a different idea. Leaving attorney N alone to shoulder the crime of internal aggrandizement will result in a loss of money. But that makes the national test fair to everyone with a common name or crazy. T-Zoon can also eliminate the situation of Chang'an betraying subordinates, which will one day be similar to Truangan. Yes, the robot's eyes immediately changed and he was completely cat-like. The KT-Zoon party brought Zoon into the office to let the bottle know the upcoming plans so he could sit on the position of school director. Zohoon made his father stop with the current situation. As long as he didn't do anything that he didn't like, he could get the position of school officer in a noble manner. But what did he do in the past to get to where he is today? Tezuan has had to change almost all of his friends and even his colleagues. He will give you a lesson that if you are not good at being cruel, you will never succeed. Do you know why you always lose the game? Because you're not as good and decisive as him? The kiss was very warm and I wished Tezuan would give me a chance to win this time with the parachute. Suddenly, Tezuan received a voice call from outside. Someone asked to meet Tezuan and ask him to take a look. Destroying the family was the decision to take charge of An. Mr. Ta-Ko was born in Taedun and helped Taedun's people, but he did not agree. Attorney An's position moved here to pretend that Mr. Ta-Ko took part in many worldly events, including the fairies of Taedun. Still acting calm, Mr. Ta knew that once the succession was made public, and would be banned and unable to find a job anywhere. Remember that you still have family to support you, so you need to be gentle in this matter. An's war was so overwhelming that Taedun's forces told Mr. Ta to leave. Ourang came to the funeral home to visit the whole family. Ourang first remembered that he had come to this family and they had passed away bald. Only the girl still hid the baby's vital signs. Ourang rushed the baby to the emergency room. Suddenly, Ourang discovered that there was a fresh bouquet of flowers in her room. Ourang quickly went outside to look for the staff, thinking that the bouquet of flowers was left by the family's daughter, but he couldn't find anyone. Ourang has a very bad smell no matter what school he's related to. I want the director to write an application for transfer to the hospital, because in the upcoming event, the leader will definitely be condemned. Zhongzhu wanted to gather the people he trusted and lie down to achieve enlightenment here. Find out the dark secrets that the family trial hides. The director didn't want to meet the guard. She was very afraid of Tae. Zoon didn't expect it. Zhongzhu said that Western Zoon is a gentleman who wants to be polite. At that time, Zhongzhu was able to concentrate on fighting with the group now in the first quarter. Why was it the Western Zone? Because 4 years ago, the parachute line discovered a secret cave. In the group of monks of Zhongzhu Hei's father, Ying told him that he accidentally overheard the conversation between Zhongzhu's father and his school. Mr. Ari Xing An's greed is just an opportunity for those who take bribes to seek black money. It was the number Zhongzhu received, but only after that Zhongzhu began to investigate his father's accident. You can ask for a record of vehicles entering and exiting the road and try to identify vehicles involved in accidents. Zhongzhu, looking back or blackening the front wall of the car accidentally and showing another car function. Fong is in the police investigation book and does not appear on camera. After clearing, the road has 2 cameras on the east and west sides. The one on the west side is being studied because the car knows that. So the car can enter from the west and then turn around in the middle. Why does the car have to be guarded? If someone does something haunted, it must be secret. Zhongzhu took the license plate number in front of the car and then many partners searched for a car with a small license plate, but did not expect that it was a Western car. Chushu knew that he was the person who harmed his father and intended to fulfill his father's dream. Decided to stay silent and return to reality even though I was thinking about it. The next step in the plan is to gradually remove the relatives from the West even though the original source is the director, and the director let him know that things were not simple, but he was okay. If I walk on this path, I will definitely not turn back. Is it because I want to protect my father from the beginning? That's right. My dad is always a regular guy, even though he is. Even though I'm involved in corruption later, it can be decided that of course he still cares about his son's career. Angry even though he was sure that his father would make it impossible for his 2 children to have their last dinner at Ntrung. Calm down after the storm even though he understood his father's ideals, even though he was alone in a power like the little man. Poe must expose the truth to the light so that people do not suffer injustice. The father has not been able to complete it, so he will continue in his footsteps. Another party went to the restaurant to meet the old girl. However, he let the Num Dun take off the old beer to meet with another group of senior leaders including the deputy inspector. Now someone called to tell the Num that someone had leaked the information to the press regarding the fact that there are people in the world accepting bribes to help with food and clothing. TNU was extremely confused, thinking that he was being betrayed. After seeing the news that the female president of Austria Food was arrested, she also tried to get help from someone involved, along with the old photos of the unbuttoned shirt. Even though the leader was quite numb and believed that there was still a Miu, he couldn't sit still and immediately called the local to ask the wind to follow the plan. After that, Jio Hung came to see the Deputy Bureau of Investigation and told her to wrap up the case. Only the Bureau of Investigation was alone in visiting the seemingly unrelated departments. The Deputy Bureau of Investigation knew that this was the meat of a rhinoceros. She was the only one who remembered Windhung from a faraway road like his father. In the heart of the fragrant wind right now, he is also having a difficult time. One side is his father's hesitation and the other side is his karma. He still doesn't know which side to choose. At this time, the director said that he was happily released with his colleagues. Oh Yang, seeing that, I didn't feel sorry for him, but I couldn't do anything. Oh Yang, I was passing by the head of the security department. His face was extremely compatible, reminding Oh Yang of a few years ago when they were together. The deputy director said that Oh Yang was also the superior of the other two people at that time. Director and stood up for the Oh Yang Rice Group, and bribed and then used his fist to control the situation, harming an entire family. Oh, Yang was so scared that she immediately confronted Director An and found out where that information was. Fong in the school department, he said that the people in the patrol department all gathered Hai Oang. Now Oang understands that he was set up to become a powerful figure. I apologized to Oang because Epoch had to do that. The others didn't even bother to look straight at Oang. Suddenly, the Western chef appeared and finally Oang knew who was behind everything. He almost gave up because he knew he wouldn't be able to change the outcome. Oang still had everything left, then collapsed and accepted the reality that Oang Channel still had one thing left. If you don't like it, you'd better let your daughter decide. Being numb to the guy who often refused made Oang Onghan's heart return to Oang's reality. I wonder if this time the situation has made the situation more stable. He expected him to hide it again. In this country, even price pickers have to pay 5 years, 10 coins per jar. Yet there are bastards who don't know enough even when they are using money to find a special purpose. What is the outcome? Oang was so angry that he was about to eat and tell me. Suddenly, numbness appears and realizes that this is not the place to cause trouble. The laziness in my heart was so inert that I woke up a bit and then numbly went to the conference office. Mr. Tar admitted his own fault for not being strict with his subordinates. The school department is the one who is sure to admit this. It cannot be certain that it is numb, but it must be certain that the system in the world has a problem. They have overlooked the role of deputy director if the establishment's opinion is investigated by the board. Erasing the country's situation once only points out small bumps in the system. She asked starting from the beginning that she was numb to the situation and wanted to take advantage of her superior. Why is the deputy holding on to the evidence that the director once called the president of the chapter in the case? The pharmaceutical company faced the full glare of the exhibition without asking further questions. News of the investigation committee being established spread throughout the internal affairs. Everyone was afraid of being dragged away and no one asked to attend the exhibition. So everyone felt extremely confused and rushed to find out the cause. At this time, Jio Hung sent the supervisory board to the 5th department to confiscate documents in the director's office. Department lies. Fuck knew that he was still looking for a book to visit, but they couldn't find it after that because the wind had taken a step further. Jio kissed and asked the bureau staff if anyone had ever been in this room, but they shook their heads. The scent of the supervisory board made people feel dizzy, waiting to return. Jiang Ning had just started stepping on the parachute. Zhou Hung suspected that Zhuang was the one who had taken the book and immediately followed him to ask him. Jio Hung did not know that the extremely unpleasant attitude made Do Hung feel the tree. Suddenly, someone rushed forward to use the parachute. If he was lucky, everyone would be confused and not understand what was going on. Now the mother continued to use the parachute. The descent to the ground made him feel like he was covered in mist. Turns out it was all just a misunderstanding. I didn't come here to play the game. A year ago, he used to report to the gang for his shoulder to get heavier. But until now he still hasn't been supported. The solution causes many more victims. However, after looking through the EA gang's financial statements, young again there can't be anything unusual. How to get enough interest and comply with regulations is just the tip of the iceberg. 2 years ago, the super enthusiasts started working at the gang and found it no problem. But after a year, we discovered the next face of the gang, a student asking for money to treat his mother's illness. Because there wasn't enough money to pay back the victim, the child fell down again, Zia MEP also immediately called the police and quit his job. When the police arrived at the hospital, the lady asked the police officer for a statement and said that she threw herself down. Zia MEP promised to stand as a witness, but he still didn't change his mind. The suspicious agent may ask the victim or the gang to promise to repay his debt. That's also the reason why Zia MEP often came to the village to find out if the gang used the money for any prizes. Hey, come here. Young suddenly remembered a case and wanted to know what the name of the gang's company was. Now, saying there is news is a way that only people in the gang know because the news is bad news. Fong people is a bad credit case that has been handled for years. This is also the case that leaves the most strings in everyone's hearts. Nguyen's mother had some money to pay for her daughter's illness, but she couldn't afford it because credit had cut her debt. So she decided to die with her daughter. At this time, Yang Bin Duong had already realized that after this case, they lost the 4th round this morning. They just paid the bill for the 5th round. Although I had solved the case many years ago, I did not expect that this was also a case that made people start to see that there was a problem in this matter. After the colleague said that in addition to finding out about Hugh, Yang and Zhongzhu stayed in Hugh's office, Yang wondered what Mu Bitch really was up to in the year. Zhongzhu didn't want to answer that he said he was an eccentric and used to practice standard water karma. Even though we advise hire Yang and everyone else to stay away, we are more teammates here. He also reformed officially. Like even asking hire Yang if she was a teammate, she promised to trust him. I don't know whether anything will happen or not. Hire Yang thought that even though he was talking, he agreed. His words unintentionally made people feel warm in their hearts. One side traveled from far away to meet T-Zoom to pray for his life. Me. The boss was so angry that the car was corrupt, and even though it was given to him in the river, although he came to find the director, he hoped that the evil trader would betray the Western faction and become his support in exchange for these documents. But the director's family background and the Western world are only related to him. Tay used to look through the documents and suddenly burst into a big smile. Because the plan was successful, the West realized that the director's true face was that he was a traitor. Yet, even though he had come to meet Tae Duan, he gave him a copy of the book, but Duong Tae Dun came up with a plan so that we could pretend that she was Duck Tae Dun and determine the loyalty of the meeting. When he is beaten and is at the end of his rope, he will always reserve books and corners for the showdown. If he brought enough money to the Westerners, he could prove his loyalty. But the exhibition had a different meaning. He signed a book to visit the new corners to bring to the office for the West. But in reality, the Western Union asked the director that if he left the book hidden, it would leave him completely out of the situation. If not, leaving is inevitable, saying that the West will walk with a smile on his face. Because he had such a good card, even though he was left with a traitorous card, the director realized it. Even though he was in a storm, he only knew that he hated it so much that the family held a meeting to find a replacement for the position of the director of the yearly department, arguing that everyone had the right to speak their mind and leave the door open. After a moment of silence, the director decided to speak up so that his doorman wouldn't expect it to be Ouyang. All the halls are said to be empty of people, the most notable being Tae Dun. One knows that Ouyang came back this time for sure to attack him. Over the years, Ouyang has lived somewhat in line with the increasingly rotten situation of the country. Because he couldn't step past the haunting fruit, but one day the parachute line appeared. Ouyang realized that the optician was not the way. He decided to stand up and fight for justice again. Boy and Ouyang also had an opportunity when the director of security was arrested. Ouyang went to the director to replace him as the director of security, because if not in a position to scratch human speech, it would become useless. The director agreed to give Ouyang a chance. Back to real download book about talent. Ouyang's two qualities are both qualified to become director of the department. Many people support Anta. Bin Yen still has people dragging it far away in the wrong area. It's Din 2 security to buy Dun, Din and Ouyang. Suddenly a person opened the door and walked in. He was not personally investigated by the jury and was also Ouyang's version. Not personally investigated, and said that his case was just an incident that was not Ouyang's way. Ouyang also took full responsibility to protect their colleagues. A person with such a sincere heart is completely worthy of being promoted. In the coming year, many people will begin to change their views. To gain the favor of the crowd, Tae Dung also supported Ho Ouyang. However, there are still people who worry that Ouyang will stray back from the mistakes of the previous years. The school department decided to stand up and guarantee Mr. Yang that if there is any problem after 3 months of April, he will take responsibility and accept responsibility first. But if not, the school department will have the right to mobilize all the forces of the country without having to personally leave the leader's side of the table. The pressure on Mr. Yang's shoulders is also heavier. Falling Zozon was filled with joy in his heart because this was a good opportunity for him to cure his general illness. When it comes to the school department, everyone can't help but have an opinion. He believes that Dad will switch to the election of the school department. The general school department congratulated both of them. Then the deputy director of the Western Department lost 2 strong men and was replaced by 2 new people. Even though in their hearts they were only drinking wine, they still had to laugh together, and everyone showed their displeasure on their faces, because they were worried that the school would expose their weakness like he had reported to the school office. At this time and now, Young is investigating the gang's credit, and he doesn't understand why the dead is being mercilessly harassed, but still thinks the gang is probably at a disadvantage in terms of money. But the number of debtors is only a few in the first row, so it has to be taken care of like that. If you wait for a long time, it is very possible that you will be lured by the gang for a long time to pay off your debt. After that, the debt was not enough to pay the new amount, so the gang took advantage of the position. Fong's problem is that half of the year took a year and he couldn't solve the case, so he had to wait until the 4th round. It only took 1 year for the 4th court to end the case easily. Therefore, it is said that they have the ability to analyze many events that are related to other uses. Young decided to go on a parachute trip on the 4th day, and her colleagues returned to help her. Inside, Young asked the 4th room about the situation and looked like he didn't want to pay. The Ministry of Defense of the 4th Department looked down on the 5th, making the team angry, forcing the 4th to know how the 4th investigated the situation. And the long-term fate of the 4th can also predict the 4th and related situations. After completing the career, it is clear that this is enough for other than military drama. As soon as they arrived at the school, the 4th party called to inform the 4th party. The year-long department has been investigating the use of the long-term department and the 4-year-old department in the morning. Because in the 5th department now, there is no one to let them act like crazy, and it's still completely predictable. At this time, Oeng returned to his office to report his appointment as Anta, opened the drawer and took out a newspaper about the case to use. This gloom has followed Oeng for 7 years when Anta came to buy the house and was about to leave in a cloud of smoke. Luckily, Oeng discovered that their daughter was still alive. Anta rushed her to the hospital. Returning to reality, Oeng is ready to leave the city to start a new war, in addition to roasting his subordinates to promote his position as school director. Now Oeng realized that the umbrella line was not at the VA office. Oeng said that the umbrella line was easier than the previous one. Po said that the security officer for Oeng had just accepted his position and suddenly had something to do, so he pushed the supervisory desk towards Oeng and there was no way out for him. Fong must have brought all the materials for training last time, so Hung wanted to investigate the parachute line. He showed Oeng the videotape of Thunderstorm, though he broke into the security chief's office. Oeng wanted to know who provided the soul detection tape and couldn't reveal it. Oeng was extremely scared because Thunderstorm even sneaked up to do something secret after that incident. Oeng waited for Thunderstorm to come back to ask him what he took from the security chief's office, even though he refused to tell the truth. Oeng wouldn't let him out of bed, even though Dong said that Oeng would cooperate with, and he again ordered her to turn away, causing Dong to feel a bit lost. He followed the 2 people into the confrontation room, and it turned out that the person at the same level was in the schoolroom. He enthusiastically joined the next 4 events to ask questions for fun, trying to find out why. What is the parachute brought back from the British exhibition hall? Although Thunderstorm naturally replied that it was because King An investigated the king after seeing Thunderstorm's parachute returned it. No one believes the rumors, even though the school must have decided to try something even if it was taken away. Now, I pulled out a file of commercial documents to test it out for myself. When he was still working at the Owl Company, he helped some people set up fake accounts to avoid fraud. The platform of the school eats and investigates the parachute line, and enemies are green books of those who set up accounts, because it was a change in the past, even though I wanted to hide it. Now we can't talk about the line, even though we used to do it, but in the long run, we can't believe it. The parachute line opened the 4-way war to take a look. Unexpectedly, inside there was news from the police who had handled the case of the parachutist's father's accident. The school department of the 4th department once came to ask him for help in a major case of suspicion of the lineage, even though he knew something. The 4th school department immediately changed, and he asked the school department to arrest him and apologize even though he had treated him. The 4th department quickly pulled the schoolroom into a panic and cried and listened, not understanding anything. When I finally left the room, I felt like I was serving as a cake no matter what the food had just been for. The line even asked people who were oi to eat if they had ever won against those people. If we don't know some tricks, we won't be able to fight them. That's because Dough's crispy rice is eaten with a cold heart and integrity, but looking back, it's not enough to buy. You will be sad at the end of the season. If OE wins first, the two of you will be able to expose all the dark side of the world. OE eats just to give it a chance. If it is eaten, it can be injected into the body. The two of you will start to cooperate, but if not, you have to start from the front and from the bottom, then you can do it. Because that night, the girl with her body full of promise asked for a place to ask for the apartment room and was immediately entered by a bunch of people. Of a hooker asking for help from a neighborhood, and a kind person was about to call close by. The group of people who are destined to talk here are no longer living on the street, worrying about how much money there is no one to supervise them anymore. The girl's companions returned to the room where loud sounds of frustration rang out. After a while, the girl continued to lose her husband and was molested by the credit manager and had a child. As for the girls, they couldn't keep up with the first children, so they just knew not to hold back when suddenly the governor received a message that the police were flocking here. He immediately asked the first children to confront the police. One of them claimed to be the boyfriend of the girl last night and took action because the girl was flirting with someone else. They just let the residents worry about the police, but they didn't care enough for them to politely testify and then leave. Circumstances of the year are also present here. The investigation of the victims of sexual exploitation is published. Right after the last sentence, everyone immediately noticed something unusual. After that, the police decided to make a trip to the nearby station to create records of specific incidents in the area. Forgiveness in such cases often pleads guilty. If only the thugs had taken advantage of it, the family would have spent a lot of time trying to get their hands on the victim. But it turned out that the victim did not continue to press charges, so it was difficult for him to fight. The more you solve the problem, the more you open the door, the more people you deal with, the more people in the world will change the fire zone. You were lucky enough to come back late in the night to get the records of the executions on the other side of the Sioux River by GAE. Ying went to meet another victim and they wanted the car repairman to tell them about the expenses the engine did to him. The car repairman refused to cooperate and asked the two people to go somewhere else so he could work. Suddenly, the auto repairman's mother went to Sioux River and realized there was a profit. The auto repairman was afraid and left her mother. However, knowing the Sioux River and Jia Yang went to the mother's house to get a card and called to make an appointment to meet the two of them. At the cafe, the mother recounted her family's situation when she said she had lost the ability to work. The child had to pay for his own education and had to earn money, which put the mother and child at risk. At times, the son is introduced to the lower version of the money, including the first version, which is not enough for him. The opportunity to give him a larger amount of money was so great that the amount of money he received skyrocketed. The son was incapacitated even though he was hit by enough explosions that he had to be hospitalized. The mother was about to warn her family but was stopped by her son. He said that he was identified by the victim so his mother did not have to worry. Then Zhu and Haiyang deeply sympathized with the family situation. After receiving the text message, the victim immediately changed his attitude and accused his mother of lying. Unexpectedly, the victim colluded with the military to save the fairy chicken and risked using that fairy for not enough money. Every time Zhu was transferred by the military, the victim had to say that she had been injured in order to be reimbursed by insurance. The mother begged Shenzong Zhu not to call the police or the military would not like them, but the parachute line and shelf surface abandoned DHA, and Yang changed to the parachute line, causing him to temporarily make a big deal out of it. Although, it is unacceptable for a person to hurt himself to make money, Tan did not accept that his family knew about it but still let the victim do so. Young believed that they had to go to the end of the road to do it, that way even though they still saw there were better ways. Two people disagree, so each person should share a shot. After that, the ranks and positions that followed him to the office of the agency below introduced him as a man of national affairs. The disciples were still not afraid because they thought they were going to get money like everyone else. However, people like to go down and take it out to look at it. He wants the money of the money to be guarded. The thugs were confused. They couldn't just ask them to give them some bribe money later. Like I said, I need a lot of money and the kids are giving me money. On the other side, the TV was showing a scene of a man stripping in the middle of her restaurant. Unexpectedly, this is the old brother of the old and now precious law that the FIT talent has turned into an object of destruction. The new leader of the group at FIT is President BQE's son, who is also the current vice president. He is playing another role. The situation was allowed to increase the ceremony even though the president was still in his infancy. Even in my hand, I still hold many secrets of the ancient BQE instrument because this is not the right time to counterattack. FIT's people just know that this game is not worth your time. Again, BQE and the sex director are planning to use the money from the hotel. Enemies from the BQE group side are waiting for one day to take over the group. The credit manager is a curious woman who reveals her plans to the finance team. Plus, CB accepts that the credit director must protect the stored credit. Until the CB cycle completes the final stage, the smell disappears. Young went to the restaurant and she had trouble communicating with her boyfriend's family because her boyfriend didn't come. The boyfriend's parents want to ask someone to come down and talk to them and they don't agree. The relationship between two people. Because they saw that they didn't want to protect her without a hat, only their mother wanted them to stay silent. As for boys, I and accepted the request even though I was a bit arrogant. On the way back, I broke down crying in the rain because I felt like life was so unfair. So what's the point? There is still a mother who loves her even though she is just a child. He was determined to stand up no matter how much he cried, so he had to go and fill the altar. Unexpectedly, everyone received a call from the family asking them to come to the hospital. Looks like even though he found a girl who was seduced by Han Ko, was given a place to stay in the room by the kind Matt Sa staff. Even though he hates the people who love him so much, he still can't let go of his career. She's still too young to understand all the good things in life, even though there are plenty of things for everyone. He found an apartment with enough people to live in, and there was no one more suitable than him. After arranging a new place to stay, I only need to be careful when going out to buy food, even if I order it. Young wondered if there was anything else he wanted to say to his daughter. Even though I already know, Young just broke up and that's his words of encouragement. Losing a try doesn't mean you don't deserve it. Sometimes losing gives you a better chance. Just like when people are the most lonely and arrogant, there will always be someone willing to reach out to her. That person of the parachute is the god. Young, she pulled the parachute out of the abyss when she lost the only god now. Even though he did the same thing with Hai, Young and Ui, Hiko had to say goodbye to the person he loved with all his heart. Young found another person who married Hiko and lost everything. He was the mother of Hai's current child. Young was the daughter of Ray who passed away in the accident so he could buy it for himself. Because it was last night, many girls tried to get her to watch TV, and at midnight today there was a program he loved, so the girls immediately showed her a book after every meal at the restaurant, and she would give her vitamins. But today, my parents saw it with something else with the intention of letting the whole family have sex together. The girl's eyes looked like she knew everything but still decided to drink it. Now, I love listening to the stories of fake girls and throwing them away. At midnight, the whole family fell asleep. I really need to sit outside and watch TV in the room to have the stove ready to fix the family's ladder. He wants to ascend to heaven by ascending to the throne of his ancestors. When he woke up, he went back to the bedroom and kept shaking the girl who didn't attend. All of them passed away among the monks, with many quarrels after which their children were not brought along with their families. Now that I've heard it all, my heart is even more painful. Now, Young cries and blames herself that if she hadn't believed her daughter's words, she would have been able to go with her family. The former guard's mother felt extremely sorry for him and immediately encouraged him and adopted her as his daughter. Reflecting on today's reality, I silently thank my mother if I didn't have her here. Having released the urge to let go of life, it turns out that living is still the best thing. Long later, he returned to the bus officer and wanted to convince him to give a statement. Now, Young wants to use the transformation he went through to teach his staff a life lesson. Her parents wanted her to leave with them because she was still living alone in this world. Everything was so funny. Now, Young used to think that parents were more evil than outsiders forcing a child who only had 2 children to go away with his parents or live with someone else. But hey, Young found a better solution, which is to live face to face and face fear. Now, Young hopes the driver will be as complete as she is and change him up a bit. The next time we meet again, the car repairman will reveal everything to Hyari. He has chosen the third method similar to his first feelings and fears. And thanked him and said the car repairman did a good job of guiding him back into autism. Okay, the person waiting in front of the exhibition and had something to tell him. The exhibition and didn't like the exhibition but still came with him to the shop to discuss the case, wanting to inquire about the case so that from being ignorant, the appearance of the exhibition and immediately changed. He went against the flow. Even if I told you what you would do to the king, for years have passed. Even though it was completely over, the mistakes at that time will certainly lead to further mistakes in the future. Even though I don't want to miss any detail. The school department still did not answer, but instead threatened that it was best for him to stay away and buy an umbrella himself if he did not want to bring harm to the gods. even though you don't mind watching the school attend the event. After returning to the office, the parachute line participated in their year's war. Everyone who has investigated the victims of Ouija credit has been recommended by the bank. They sold the victim's head to get a loan, but they said the victim did not meet the conditions and gave the victim credit to pray for luck. Most of the victims were young people who faked all the money they had in order to use the credit card. Trusted car repair staff is another case. He did not come to raise goods for credit. I was introduced to a friend below for credit because this friend worked at the company below, but he drove a luxury car and wore expensive branded clothes. His friend also suggested that his left hand be buying sex for sex because the money he got was from commissions under the referral. One colleague remembered seeing a sex buyer when they came to investigate. Moreover, the dynamic range of the compartment and the vehicle's engine are around the situation. The system lady did not have any ups and downs on the sheets, but was closely connected to each other so that later it was determined that this matter would come to the store and be investigated. Afterwards, the fiveth announced that the loan officer should come and ask for advice. Most of them asked each other to use this loan and asked for it because it was very difficult for them to borrow more. Applications, including period loans, including those with debt, are coming in all at once. After getting the information, my colleague called me to let me know. She was extremely angry that the publisher took advantage of the government's policy to apply for candidates and put young people in a difficult position to exploit them. After all, it's not strange that this social aunt told me that the two people would have to go directly. But even if two people use money, they will always get a lot of bottles. Young must make them all pay. Suddenly, I received a call from the fourth exhibition to meet DN and to talk. MUI arrived. Dun Su arrived at the fourth exhibition. He reminded Don Su not to continue investigating the case of the security guard he encountered. But Zong Su is the one who did what he had to do to the end, and he did not agree. Give birth to get up and go. If the school department wants to be angry, you will definitely have to cooperate. Zong Suo told him that he had never said these words to the contrary. It was the one who should be afraid. In his hand, Zong Suo is holding a weapon that the secret police want to destroy. Fong later, the department wanted to meet Tizun. He found something that could defeat him, followed by the increase of the department, taking the opportunity to leave the shortlist as Zong Suo. Tizun can also fight evil easily with one helmet and many arrows. But behind the scenes, there are still people who are hiding money, even though the government has to do it carefully. He seems extremely confident with this move. Afterwards, an article was posted online about how high-ranking officials of the world bribed the victim into not participating in the investigation. Because Oang's kindness started with malicious words, it suddenly turned into something I couldn't really forgive. Dong Dong secretly wished for Oang that this was the result of kindness being misplaced at the wrong time, and suddenly someone from the supervisory board came to the scene and wanted to arrest a corrupt investigator. Oh Yang, I'm so angry. The telltale light is behind me every time I aim at you. Don't touch my pellets. Mrs. Jiam Sap Buddha followed Ouyang's words and looked at the other stone below. This battle hasn't ended yet. Something else is coming. Ouyang received a call from an unsuccessful friend. Tung suddenly opened an emergency meeting without even informing Ouyang that he wanted Ouyang to come immediately because he predicted something bad was about to happen. It turned out that this was a press conference to force the school's leadership council to take advantage of Ouyang's scandal. Recalling the previous regret, the school development knew that this was the plan of the West. Seeing his change in the heart of the school was extremely inspiring. The previous leader still forcefully pressed the event for an important lesson. Why hasn't the main character in this story arrived yet? Is it because Yang has already arrived? The director couldn't say anything. He just said he would have an answer soon and left. At this time, Yang came to the end of the show and was so angry that he couldn't say a word, so he left. Oh Yang, if you want to know what's going on, you'll need to go to the deputy director of the Ally. Oh Yang, because of Anta's little mistake, the whole match was infected and infected like that. How could he defeat Tae-dun? The deputy had to come up with the best solution right now. Oh Yang was left alone to put aside all the cases that were posted for investigation. At the time, the subordinates were having a hard time dealing with the situation and would find a way to resolve it later. Oh Yang, I'm about to object to this persistent and uneducated decision. This is not a submission but an order. One counter immediately followed. At this time, the attacker had already exploded in the first storm. Even though he could not sit in the main battle, he went to see the police investigating the case of 4 years ago to ask him. One had to inform. Even though the police officer accepting bribes threatens his entire career, no police officer can negotiate easily. In fact, he discovered that 4 traders had been betrayed by the development department after the incident broke out. The 4th Department came to ask the police to deploy or flock to the parachute's farther share. After a quiet moment, the police returned and saw their subordinates bringing evidence for the 4th crime. The police didn't know what it was, but they were about to talk about his father's passing. Although Zong is extremely pleased with the information he has received safely, he will use it well. When the 4th exhibition finally arrived, it was a waste of time even though it had been attended. Even if Mr. Evil was angry with the police, he could not solve anything, so he quickly returned to the owner. On the way to the forecall exhibition, many writers wrote articles detailing Zong's past. He used to be a police officer who helped him with his karma and is not worthy of working at the water department. He asked the staff member to do it for a day and then hung up, but this was still within his calculations. He even went to see the important officer in the room, and he made the assignment according to the wishes of the 4th Development Department. After that, even though he called the 4th Development Department to ask to arrange a meeting, he hung up without giving him a chance to refuse. The strength of the past is now so valuable that even though he has a favor to ask, he appears to be extremely talented. The old force has come up with 2 names capable of landing the president's door. Their job is to wait and pay. In a person with a higher chance of being elected, this will become a place for future consultation. If you have them, where can you find them? There will be a bias test every 5 years, but if you just help startups stay clean, they will earn a pretty decent amount of money. Tae-zoon did not immediately agree because he felt there was a point why these names were not related to the quiet group. Ignoring the authorities, I thought that Tae-zoon took care of the previous tuberculosis incident and foolishly fell in love with him. West-zoon is not the cause of any beneficial thing. He will definitely do another party to the 4th exhibition, returning to the same end even though it is available here. He threatened him that if he didn't stop what he was doing, he would die, but he still didn't rely on him. The guy often claimed that he came here to take revenge, and nothing could slow him down. Even though it's different from the 4th exhibition, he has nothing to lose. The 4th exhibition is so sad that even though he suddenly feels numb, he walks to the table and goes into the office to talk. Zong took out a post about his promise and asked him to help him remove it. The 4-year-old self-animated student had a numb face and coldly asked the river why I had to help him. Although Zong mentioned that his situation was decided by a fight, but now that place is still operating and has even opened a tissue business to connect with banks and car companies. This is definitely someone in the world who will guarantee that the 4th quarter will not receive half of the ginseng even if they keep their mouth shut. Zong, no matter what happened to the engine, he would still bring along a few people who said he would stand under him. Even though Zong thinks it's related to the cause, in reality this is a long-term affair that the cold-blooded government is doing behind our backs. Accidentally, I discovered that in an old law book, the rules given at the restaurant also had a credit name mentioned. He didn't expect that the 4 Director General would collude with someone else behind his back and plan to give the 4 police a few more shots. If this matter wasn't resolved well, the 4th Director could go first. Trung and CUC2 ended up apologizing and moving away before his grandmother met him. He wanted to know that the Department of Trung, Department of 4 had defeated him, but still refused to let the Department of Trung, Department of 4, answer that his target was the parachute. B's investigation of the various departments has yielded results. After many days and a year, the 5th department employee discovered a way to transfer money from another department. That's taking advantage of the employee who leaned on the car for a long time to prepare it and then put the cash in the trunk of the recipient's car. Along with the coordination of the police, the security forces were overthrown. The Rongsu side received the news and quickly returned to the Nam Bao Kao department. But the 5th Development Department is extremely strange because there is also the 4th Development Department at Do. Eat about anger and question Su River because he borrowed a large amount of money from the government and helped them fill the inspection department. If it is a windy event, the 4 productions will be held, but even if the wind is silent, there will be no explanation. Because he had decided to make a move to open the round before, even though he had told Mr. Yang to. Months of broken machinery in life. When an honest leader like Mr. Yang is needed, the wind will help him get the best position Mr. Yang can use. The parachute is like a plane. Selling Mr. Yang's head was a bit of a hit, but now it's a new story. When it happened, Mr. Yang did not monitor the storm even though he declared that he was fired even though he asked. The feminine dignity of everyone. But there is one thing that the parachute line cannot foresee. The female parachute line has asked to be transferred from the Screening Supervisory Board. The year replaces the position of the parachute line. In terms of security and utility duties, the lines, even if they are currently in charge, will change lines. Even if it's unacceptable if it's not the wind, I'll leave it to my colleagues. Is it difficult not to want the line even though the internal family does not benefit more than the line even though there is still the line even though the line is still there? The case is over. So many people have been mistreated so miserably. Now it's time to give them justice. There's no need to disguise people anymore. The arrest room appears with orders from superiors. The case was brought to court and they also took all the money they had just collected. Zhong-su extremely wishes that from top to bottom in this world, there is no one who is kind. If the room is immediately closed, the true result of the example project is also good. Zhong-su couldn't fight back against an entire herd of people who decided to leave before he promised to come back and recover. But when someone eats, he still doesn't feel the same way. Even though he leaves, she follows the uniform and irons to help him eat even though he has a chance to eat. Oh, who eats and doesn't care anymore? Who eats and moves on to the same topic and changes jobs even though she doesn't come here anymore? But why let it be said that Lai's boss didn't expect that he was sitting in the room trying to tell someone to eat? So why bother asking? Who eats Do Kwan? How can I continue talking? Tate. Whoever eats is shy and has no face then hi. Whoever returned to the office found that even though he had dropped urine, Ying wondered if he should just keep going now. Like no matter what she did, she had to just do it and accept it. Ying has a question about why she gave some money to her family without sharing it with everyone first. Fong only asked Ying asked all members of the investigation team. Even though he couldn't give them the explanation he wanted to give them right now, he could only apologize at the end. B came to pray for the fate of his wife's father-in-law, who is the president of a luxury construction company. A small branch of the group now precious after the departure of their daughter. Their relationship is like water and fire. His father-in-law asked Tae-zoon not to return to work building parachutes. He did not want to greet the young man on the road of Western Zone. The country situation is full of miscreants and Western Zone patients, including our father-in-laws and middlemen, are only helping those who are sick. Tae-zoon wants to refer to his father-in-law's company if he has not looked at the export for so many years. Even though Tae had not been able to stand up until now, his father-in-law was so angry that he had a heart attack and looked for Tae, although he smiled like a fake ceremony man and ended quickly when his sister-in-law came to meet D and Tae. Even though he talked, he felt that Tae's real problem in life was always the big and small countries pulling the small and forming factions to betray each other. Back to the furnace to build an umbrella. In the near future, there will be a fight like that, so at that time just use the light even though it will be difficult to avoid flying hands and wind. Even though he said it frankly, he would not show his face so that his grandmother would ask to kill his sister-in-law and take out a camera to record her and use it. The soul used to be bribed. If you don't use it to control the company, your wife will lose her job in the world. Ho is obedient and returns home to build wealth, even though he does charity work, but doesn't worry at all. The next day, Tae-dun came to see the old man and decided to ask him to force him to build an umbrella. But in the old days, there was a condition that Tae-dun had to ensure that it was functional and wouldn't cause problems. Tae-dun people see the smell of affirming in Gan, encountering the old turtle, but do not want to reveal it. Tae-dun was extremely angry after returning to Tae-dun's office to take down the old soldiers and take advantage of the enemies. He also called for an investigation into all units related to the back group. The deputy director of the search immediately learned of this move and immediately came up with a plan to sabotage the deputy, thinking that the Zune could not stand the sword company's response. Waiting for both sides to negotiate a trade deal will be the one who wins. At this time, Zhong Zed was going around trying to persuade him to go to another credit company to apply for a few more loans, resulting in Zhong being punched in the face. Yang knew the money and rushed to the hospital. But Zhong Zed went home. Hai Yang returned to Zhong Zed, but he refused to leave. Even though he was hugging and lying in the room without telling anyone, it was okay, but he continued to act. He went to the car rental company to pick up a car even though it was abandoned at a designated location. Even though Zhong knew the rental company's exploits, he continued to repeat the previous action over and over again. The car rental employee felt that there was nothing he wanted to do in the end. Another side of the debate and the ongoing debate about the use of bucket guards in the field said that the collection of data by the engine bucket is unreasonable, because they have no evidence to prove their use of insurance money. The fifth platform has found a rice cart for the second debt post according to the general assumption that it is related to the search for land use. If you realize this, it is clear that you are searching for debt, which is transferred to illegal use, and illegal use is already easy to find. The money will not be known to the world. If Pak tries to surrender or immediately mobilize troops, went to investigate. In fact, he had received orders from the school department and the fake four had just beaten his father for show. Pak's defense ignores all the important details, but since these are all standard companies, Pak still has to admit that he colluded with the company owner for this. Casting in these places lowers the force sutras so that they do not have to spend a lot of money. Thanks to that, Pak school also gave me some money. At the same time, the detective was very knowledgeable and they only investigated based on the data she brought back, so they did not discover any meaningful evidence. At this time, the police director arrived at the police station and ordered the thugs to execute the victims who cooperated with the crime. Based on the strange video, the gang first knew that the girl in the room from afar also knew that she had gone with the parachute. The thugs followed the trail to the hospital and asked the staff if they had seen such a girl. The staff did not recognize the girl but recognized the umbrella line. The military immediately went to the same place, even though the other side of the girl was talking about buying it unexpectedly but was told by the house security. The shadow of the person who came to the girls' quarters felt like he was the girls' protector in a military house. The frightened girls left the place and rushed to the toilet before the army arrived. At that time, a group of soldiers came to the buyer's place first to attack them because they revealed their whereabouts and surrounded them very severely. The military took information from the civil service officer and then came to find him. They rushed into the parking lot and used the cart when the mother arrived. She rushed to stop her father's son from making fun of his mother. She was so angry that she found a way to laugh and immediately told her husband to return her love. After that, the mother and daughter of the car operator were arrested and taken to the next street. Even though they were legitimately defending themselves, they were still dead. As soon as he heard someone, Young quickly called the police officer to the next street to ask for someone to help them. They absolutely did not want this to happen. Even though you are so angry, you're determined to end this. The next day, the parachute came to participate in the meeting for him because of his role in using the language, so he allowed the parachute to separate himself. He wanted to turn the meeting into a public investigation into his grave. The first line, though, revealed that he had to play the role of the famous person using the amount of money 2 million. Like, even if you don't just use that money, or you choose all the people in a tax. Allowing him to be suspended from work creates an opportunity for himself to not act on his own, but also to use his 2 millionaires to earn nearly 5 billion in personal labor related to fishing. Participating in cooperation in building a capital flow even when the time comes for the sister's car to be given. Use it as collateral for the sister's love interests to use. Where the car was parked, it was not by chance, but by the princess's intention to take advantage of the car's main instrument box. Even though they had followed their contract, after earning 5.3 Zoom tablets, they immediately disappeared without a trace, and the debt outbreak led to the sudden increase in demand for production companies. What does the number 5.3 mean? According to the principle of collecting and defending, it is divided into several sources of stored capital. Those exploiting companies still have a position to collect more money, and at the same time, the advantageous position of the exploiting companies is also subjected to some trickery by the people in the department. This company is not within the reasonable range according to my calculations, even though the amount of money collected must be 1.5 million. But the arresting department only recovered about 8 days. One was that he was safe, and the other was that he colluded to take out the company's money. The school arrested the beautiful lights and protested. He was angry and said it was a storm even though there was no evidence. Right when the company's head office was ready to let him in, he gave bribe money to the school department to arrest him but was still punished by the authorities for all his assets. This time, the school office stopped talking and the school department angrily declared. The police department was suspended from the reception and investigation work, and she wouldn't listen to the story because the company harmed her colleagues and worked far away. GM touched the thunderstorm, and the grandmother in the most secluded room of the school was cut off. The stairway of the school district force saved him, but he was still in the middle of the night and had already been caught in the storm. Even though he turned to look at the school district 4, he was now leaning against the box on the rental cars. Discovering a car of an unusual color is associated with the company for this reason. This is a 4th grade police car. He still pretended that he was just checking it out. Zhong Suo, the director of the Sexual Affairs Department, had to contact the 4th District Department. Give the 4th District Department a chance to contact that person and ask him to bring the contract for the rolls and numbers here. Then Zhong Suo will think about returning to find 5 pi is not a small number. Zhong Suo also give Department 4 staff a chance. When they bring the investigation back to the hospital, if they accidentally hide any of the bodies involved, they'll be fine. If you let the 5th one discover, the 4th will have no way out. The 4 officers all became worried. The 4 officers returned to the office and reminded the street staff to monitor the fire. The 4th round staff became confused and did not know which way to choose. The other party made an appointment to meet privately, even though the officer clearly understood that he was taking a risky move without fear of the explosion happening later. The parachutes are still very supportive, and the parachutes are the first to judge the face of their use. Even if the parachutes sacrifice their lives, there will be no more victims in the future who will struggle with each other. Right at that moment, Young left and didn't understand why his partner was so worried about him. That means he is also a conscientious person who comes to choose high. Young asked the nest-like umbrella, "Why did you decide to take the risk without warning?" And at the same time you answered at the same time. "As I told you earlier, my goal is only to make evil people suffer and get what they deserve." Later, everyone returned to the office to discover that Tae-dun was here at the school's 4th office. But the opportunity to save life turns out to be the case from the original bureau, but the capital discussed at the beginning of the case. That security belonged to the department 2 years ago. Lo Yang was bored with life and didn't want to brew tea, so he took it back for me. Department 4 Tae-dun Muan reported Chai to Department 4 saying that it was Geo Lo Yang and was not sure to accept. "I really can't say anything." Tae-zorn decided to follow the request of all the bureau's 4 people. Lying in the Hun are all warm wishes because the big ones come to the west and then lose them. After that, Tae-zorn and the 4th department head went into the office to talk privately. Even though he told the king to give security to the 4th department, that doesn't mean he let him go. School Department, Department 4. By betrayal, Tae-zorn has lost all his right hands and power. Keep the school and 4th department for use in another calendar. The player's decision for the game is also to find a fake credit card discounter nearby. At the same time, he made fake contracts and ledger accounts leading to the family's confession. In the afternoon, "I also want to show my gratitude." But when he went to dinner, he immediately wanted to change. The other side of the meeting gathered to discuss the next direction without deciding to participate, because he thought that all bets were off and he wanted to make sure to take advantage of the big school completion case. "Now I not only like to brag about myself, but I also like to brag about my father." The 5th Bin Yen still did not give up. They guessed that the 4th quartermaster would go find the governor to persuade him to stay safe. Department 5 decided to follow the Long Department. The 4th department had the dark smell, the Long Department, the 4th department was outside. The 2 officers of the 5th department will go ahead like parachutes and will move right behind the schoolroom to meet the 4th department's deputy. In an unexpected year, the 4th department discovered that the 5th department was following them. Be returned to a hotel, he dialed the phone. The 5th employee followed and lost the last one. Outside, he took a taxi to continue up. This time, there will be thunder and lightning. Young didn't lose sight of him and they followed the school district 4 to a restaurant. Here, the school department of the 4th department met with the director of human resources to discuss a plan to find a volunteer to replace her. Thunderstorm though and High RE. Young was cut off outside Thunderstorm despite introducing himself from the water fight. If the staff doesn't let them and catch the parachute, having to check the restaurant status, the staff was afraid to involve them both in the hotel. However, they had come to the first real estate and had attended instead their family's exhibition. He seemed extremely polite even though he immediately turned back to the restaurant reception. "Is there any other exit?" According to the instructions of the staff, Young went to the tunnel and saw that the girl who had just come up would be lost. Ian immediately changed to follow the line. Although he stopped her, he realized that the girl was still there. After that, the 2 returned to the office and found out that the credit manager was the manager of the old man. Wherever Dwong Neem is, he hides that even though he remembers the story of his father's past, he still remembers the story of his father's past. Now he is the one who chanted. After that, the line even found all the documents related to the Be Deceit group, which he collected for 4 years. Although extremely angry at all the suffering, people seek millions of things to be determined to find the right people to build. Build a line even though you decide to do something. At this moment, Owen came to find the line even though he had thought of a way that could be effective. It is a celebration of the power of communication to call for justice for victims of crime. Surely the government won't let this be printed. Of course, the unit that the people drink on their behalf will have the right to investigate the case. After all they had done, the director had a strong feeling that the victim would be disappointed. And lying lump. Fong was beyond the director's expectation that the day the news would spread. The fake doctor came to see the Tae-dun. He is one of 2 Italian presidential candidates who claim to be ideological, not based on the vision of people suffering from leg injuries. The prosecutor asked Tae-zoon to follow the wishes of the victims of the investigation into the drug abuse case. Then, Tae-zoon called the 4th exhibition to his office to show Mr. Ta the published article. Everything has come to this step. Tae-zoon requested the 4th court to return the case to the 5th court as soon as a press conference is opened. He also apologized that if 2 years ago, the Yang drive wouldn't have been so irresponsible, it wouldn't have caused so many people to get hurt. Even though he knew he would be used for drives, Yang knew this would be the starting point for his political career. Although Zhong once promised Yang that he would help him rush to the top treatment room to handle all the troubles of the escape, the first thing that Yang must do is know how to test his distance. On the other hand, the vice president called the old lady to the office immediately after returning to work so that they were already investigating. The vice president destroyed the old BAQE several times, and the director used BAQE's money to set up a project that resembled a musical instrument. Old BAQE still denies the crime, but the vice president has decided to expel him. At this time, thunder and lightning, Yang went to meet the car handler to check on his situation. The car handler wanted to thank the two of them for their help and support in finding evidence to prove his mother's innocence. Bei and the car repair staff also understood that they should not accept the shop to exchange themselves for money because there were many people around who were worried about them. Now, I'm very happy right now, even though I'm looking around. Reflecting on the events that had just gone through, he still felt the storm even though he knew that his girlfriend's money was the best. After escaping from the gang last time, she went to stay at many villagers' houses and was taken care of by the villagers for a long time, even though she felt happy that she understood that everyone can find joy in life. However, even though the storm was still moving, he had to work in the evening to stop the 4-year school. Even though it was sent to Mr. Toha Mimoti, he said that he would return all the proceeds. This will not only hurt Mr. Ta, but being numbed by green-headed thugs will also harm Mr. Ta. The school department of the 4th department has reached the end of the road, although it would be better for me not to continue going any further. Zhong even agreed to a condition of returning the evidence he had obtained from the police. The first half of the 4th officer still hesitated until the storm, even though he said he knew how to fight back. The school department wants to no longer need bags of bottles because sooner or later that person will eliminate him. The school department wanted to take out the badge that Tizun accidentally dropped at the scene. The conversation between the two of them immediately controlled Bio Yang, and he learned the true goal of the Do variety when he reached the 5th department. So, like when he went to Tizun's episode, he didn't directly present the facts to him, but just shared his thoughts with each other. When Du returned, he pretended to receive the position of military commander on Earth. Tizun immediately changed his face. It was the position of military commander that his late wife had given him. Afterwards, Zhu also realized that Tizun was the one who harmed his father. After that, Zhongzhu arrived at the scene of the car accident to participate in the story of the 4th event. Finally, Zhu can also imagine the evolution of the Hats dance. Why did the 4th exhibition come to Taizun to inform him of his father? Zhongzhu is holding the black book Taizun went to find his father. Zhongzhu often found him. Begged Zhongzhu's father, respecting his longtime best friend, to show him his face just once. Not only did Zhongzhu's father not publish the black book, he also recorded the conversation to get more. A Westerner's father used the umbrella and then drove away without realizing that the West used to follow him. The lover's father used the umbrella and drove him away, causing him to crash into the car. He continued to cut off the thigh and suddenly a deer rushed out into the street. The father of the parachute line, his friend did not have a deer without a tomorrow, rushing into the city before the car rushed violently because the West Abyss used the car to check on the father of the parachute line, praying for his life to save him. Taking the opportunity to take back a party member, he gave it to him. But the black parachute's greed did not stop there. He took away the black umbrella while his son and his father lost their way. Especially the parachutist's father grabbed the button of the black parachute shirt. The innocent man did not find out that he would leave the scene despite his father's request to kill himself. The person he and his father trusted the most turned out to be the same person despite the mud on the road. Just like a merchant thinking about a plan, standing in the middle of the road, suddenly being hit by a group of people. Luckily, Young suddenly discovered the parachute in the shortest time. Young already knew the purpose of the parachute when he entered the world. The Red Country doesn't pay for his father. Young wants to quit even though his colleagues in the 5th department won't give up security. But this story is extremely mysterious, even though I don't want anyone else to suffer. Hi Ari Young advises me that even though I love each and every one of you, even though I thank Hi Ari Young for your love, I still need more time to think. Another party after the plan to use the money from the project, including the summaries of the party of the Baikui group, was exposed. The old words were so clear that he had to deal with all the subjects involved. Then he recited the words and water to destroy the evidence. The person involved in the attack was the director. When he returned to the basement, he discovered 2 suspicious people. This is the driver who was sent to harm the director to silence him. The careful cockroach director got bored with the assassins and returned to his room to tidy up his things. But before he could leave, the assassins ordered him into the bathroom. This useful cockroach director walked in. A few seconds later, the assassin came out to ask for the bathroom. His performance was still full, but without the teacher, Doc Tin used to come up with a female subject who had been dealt with. Suddenly, his father received a serious text message informing him that someone was coming to help him. The fourth officer was frightened and took the car back with the intention of gathering the food and leaving the place. On the way, he discovered that his car had broken down. At the scene of the four-car accident, luckily he only suffered minor injuries. Later, the rescue worker came to the car and told the 4th police station that the car was occupied by someone else. Move hands and feet. The 4th department's podium thought about the day until he felt numb because before that, numbness had told him, if the plan fails, the 4 evils must be dealt with. After that, the 4-year-old officer, about to risk his life, went to the west of the village to pray for his life in one go. But the wind said that it was not the west who was taking action. He secretly thought that it was someone who was opportunistic, using the tricks. The director and his people must definitely find this person. On the other side, Oi Yang Han Tap Tuong Duong missed the conversation he had with the 4th school department. Oi Yang knew the truth of the storm even though it was a trick for his father. Oi Yang is not sure about the storm, but hiding it from everyone. On the contrary, he wants to escape the storm, but he did not agree to go it alone, even though counting the numbers was enough. Oh, Yang must definitely keep himself clean to go further on the political path. Even though the storm will help him do that, the world must have a leader who can lead the people to lead a peaceful life. Oh Yang understands Thunder's good intentions even though he doesn't want to argue anymore. Every morning, even if I go to see my prosecutor friend without going through the prosecutor, I receive a call with a serious complaint against the prosecutor, which is naturally more than a luxury item. Fong members knew that this was the local bank that had been investigating the line related to the Ouija board situation. According to the story of the reporter at the bank, there was an anonymous American character called Parachute. According to industry estimates, it is not expected that these people will be murdered. The total number of victims has reached the point where an OSB investigator recorded a phone call for the line, even though there was a strong indication that they would investigate the line, even though they promised to try to find the result. On the other hand, there are people who use some of the bank's properties to give them to them. People talk about people who are so stupid that the properties in the bank staff's veins are extremely wild. As for Lee, when she went to eat, Lee's family did not rush to admit the truth in the letter but instead looked to find out who sent the letter. Through some of Lee's security cameras, they discovered one of their employees performing a fake act while entering the office. Today, he was also absent from Lee's company, making him even more certain that the clerk was the mailman and no one else. At this time, Owing went to find the deputy head of the economic department to ask her to allow an investigation into Zhangzhou Bank because it was related to the search for illegal drugs. The deputy head of the economic department was extremely difficult to deal with because she was working at a faraway bank. The female grower also had a secret relationship with the old lady. If she could find out who the grower was involved in looking for a bucket. As the deputy director of the economic department's political career was also affected, the deputy director of the economic department had just agreed with the OE ceremony to choose that date, so she went back to her room and did not agree. Suddenly, the deputy search officer received a text message from Today saying he couldn't go out to eat with his wife. The deputy search officer called him to ask for help. She dialed the old number. The deputy found out that these two people were together and felt that she had no choice but to be with her husband. Then she deleted the call with the force of sending me to the home office. The dark smell of the interbank came to the house. The bank employee wanted to persuade him to stand up and defend himself, saying that what was written in the letter was not true. The customer who has completed this step can then keep the customer's consent to retrieve the customer's records. In fact, he is also a character, even if he looks like a clerk and commits a crime of bribery. His secret position was exposed, so the captain naturally agreed to the manager's request. After all, they are all dishonest businessmen who only have one problem: upload luxury items and use them near any current problems. Lai often admitted to him that it was a telemeter line. Never stop selling luxury goods to attract more attention from people in the world. When heavy usage occurs, the vehicle continuously breaks down and comes back to life. Han's story about Lai left employee Han's house did not expect him to record the entire conversation. Accidentally, employee Han turned on the loudspeaker, causing Kwong Lai to realize that Khan turned around and kept hearing employee Han's voice. The two sides shared a fateful fate, causing Khan to be extremely worried about him and the situation. Employee 2 realized that he had set the phone number to automatically press yes and then return to the house. Then both things disappeared without a trace. In the morning of the year, there was a meeting. Now the association has been promoted to the office of the year's office. Finally, I wanted to investigate the bank because I thought it had something to do with fake credit. Bin said this matter had not been confirmed yet, so the two of them joined forces to search for more since there were still many unsolved cases. After repairing my colleagues, they were done, so they blocked the disaster and left. Even though Dong stayed to watch, he told the two investigators that he was definitely not allowed to introduce anyone. Geo Hung allows thunderstorms despite the self-esteem of a female communist. There I was. Even though I returned to the office, I upset everyone's spirit. Taking out the party detention of the caller of the high gathering will definitely raise the issue. Although the storm will be heard in the direction of finding him, Yang sets out to investigate. While I was listening to the thunderstorm, I suddenly received a call from a crew member even though I hadn't even started yet. Like Dung and Hai, Yang immediately went to the place where the investigation meeting of the public office was taking place. The prosecutor's office has been looking for the person who is Han's employee, but now she is a suspect in a murder case. 2 traces were found in the house of her employee Han and another person. Both of these people disappeared without a trace. Police investigation determined that the welder was not guilty because after the incident, security cameras caught him extorting money. The prosecutor speculated that the story of the welder suddenly smelling bad could be a bribe to an unknown person who discovered this. When they went to the house to pick up the welding staff's legs, both sides had a disagreement and saw that the welding staff had murdered an unidentified person. Then he went to the ATM near the house to get some money, and then the money man left the owner. The prosecutor was very smart, so he took the opportunity to investigate the bank and offered it to the bank governor, but he did not refuse. All the staff are ready to support Min Kong Tu, even though there are still many things that are contrary. At the end of the meeting, he met a member of the team and did not expect that the team member also had the same thoughts as the team member. The officials thought that the new employee was the one who had passed away so that the children could be forced to try. Peace is just that. If you want to know the flavor, you have to find a store employee or an unknown person, no matter who. The image will reveal this story. B Dark Force, old lady, went to the restaurant to meet T Zoom, the two officials. This was originally a cooperative relationship, but now it's like water of choice. Num Zoom angered the force of the old BIS, hoping to eat it was still frozen and not vice versa. Num Zoom was the one who liked to expose the Godcut credit card for the vice president of BIS. He had a special opinion, laughing loudly that the people behind his back would end up like the old force would no longer be able to change this news. There were people outside who were very polite and didn't expect that it wouldn't be tea. The author returned to report to the deputy director of the rhinoceros system and stripped off the old turtles and killed them. The deputy saw this as a good opportunity to be polite. It's not enough tea to remind her. First, we have to remove the bank manager from the office and work there. If he was caught in the act, he couldn't help but search for her. She was having a headache. Afterwards, the deputy returned home, waiting for him to come back from a trip today. Especially the partner is very happy to protect. The deputy knows when going out to drink and the old force on her face. What I want most is to stay away from the old force that is holding me back a bit. People inside don't understand. The police officer said that the wife was forbidding the 2 wives to stay here, causing arguments, and the deputy restrainedly explained that she was scared and left the room. People inside. I don't know what to do with my wife, but I can't be an official in the morning. Now, Yang went to his father's phone and called the prosecutor's office. Now, Yang identity is the number that both love each other. Spring around discovered a vehicle at the opposite officer's grocery store. From the driver's words, the two learned that the car had been here for several days. I wanted to borrow the guitar box from the car to check it out, and it was exactly as I predicted. The person who sent the letter and the person who called the prosecutor's office were one of them, a rude employee. After that, he even arranged for the prosecutor to come over so he could show the governor what the state said. The main staff is a very good person. Dong Thu is a person who is very generous to the talented line staff and does everything possible. The bank's confidential medical records say there's no reason to bribe people who leave the country. The Storm even said that the airline staff had been silenced by the company. Storm wanted to change the direction of the investigation. The bank director did not agree. The company believes that the responsibility lies with the bank. Thunderstorm suddenly realized that the director was also being hidden in secret. I don't want you to force me to reduce the governor because I know there will be no results. It's my right to participate in an investigation. The prosecutor still has to conduct a thorough investigation, but the Parachute River and the prosecutor will certainly meet at one point. At this headquarters, Ouyang went to meet a man who did not belong to the old bank. He was suspected by Ouyang to be related to the disappearance of the store employee, because this is the trick that the authorities used 15 years ago in the case to kill and make Ouyang only judge. 15 years ago, the case of death of buying content came out, causing a series of franchise companies to go bankrupt, because the reason is that they are being manipulated by the Green Bank to collect a few sums of money at once. Ouyang came to Interbank Money to investigate. He only gave out one person set, saying that this is a character who, even though he has secured bribes from the other side, is now shaking hands, has secured bribe money from the other party and is now distributed by the other companies. Oh, Young wonders why Lee knows so much but doesn't say anything. Ouyang is self-injecting a lot based on the number of places agreed on the setup. Ouyang by the creek in his body. Mr. Hackey meet face to face with Leon. The man unexpectedly agreed to immediately take this opportunity and said that he would have to say goodbye to his family, the name of the relative, until the next day. He was unable to contact the person named him. He kept contacting me and the result was that he had reached the two-way system. Kwa Lee said that it couldn't be because Lee's suspicions had opened the door. Oh, it's like the scene where you're about to join your lover's love, but soon you'll disappear without hiding it from your lover. But in the sense that disappearing without having the opportunity to confront reality, the airline staff also finds themselves in a situation that once occurred to them. Ouyang, the interbank's corruption is not a matter of converging twice when the other two people were secretly discovered. What is the point of making it public? Where did Pan Lee hide them? Lee still pretends to be useless. Ouyang is ignoring the Khan. At this time, the storm helped Ian go to the bank to help the greedy people hear about the bank staff. My husband is a bit unfriendly, but he is a very upright person. Once upon a time, everyone saw an employee turn on a superior because he discovered that the superior was not transparent in his work. But that story was long ago and no one remembers the true content. After that, no matter who he was, Young returned to the night and told everyone what had happened. Dong and Geep also discovered a new thing. Employee Han also has a younger sister despite being a foreigner. After receiving the money, he received it. So why didn't he give it to his sister? So can he play? Dong Duong said that employee Han did not admit that he was an honest person. Tin Yen Han acted according to his feelings, helping the painter and God even though he was in trouble. The person responsible for withdrawing money from employee Han's account is another person, because the police's security camera couldn't record two fingerprints at the scene. It is possible that the person who did not intend to kill murdered the store employee, then created a crime scene and then fled. The unknown person knew the identity of the bank employee, once his relative too worked in the bank to help determine who this person was. At this moment, Ouyang returned to the village and told his subordinates that he had just met someone who suspected this king was related to the disappearance 15 years ago. Ouyang opened a disaster to help the people involved and quickly stopped the murder case in the same way. That's the crime of bribing the painter, saying that Mr. Tin Bo is in trouble. If you look at SES Sosamore, the problem that the frontline staff is complaining about is an issue that has existed since 15 years ago. The real world also received a lot of good letters to stop the sales staff from doing so because most of the investigations were fruitless. It is possible that in this world there are people who help the bank to transfer money. To confuse the situation, Ouyang divided the investigation team and his subordinates to a fortress. That cockroach fortified each person to report to the bank. But suddenly, a group of people accused Ouyang of being the one in the world to get out. The cockroach was immediately upset and said he didn't want to talk to Ouyang, who had to wait until evening. Go away, new cockroach machine. Please reveal a little information. Behind the transfer bank is a group of private companies that were taken over by the transfer bank in a fourth meeting. One is to be bankrupt. The other is to accept becoming a subsidiary or selling production technology to become a major corporation. But the monopolistic corporation is getting bigger and bigger. Oh, Young realized that 15 years ago, Dai Tu bought dung without asking questions, and now they are also a small branch of a private corporation. Fia Zongzhu came to the house. The store staff investigated with the police. He discovered an unusual point and made a contract for the role and to prevent the store from being the store staff's thing. After that, Zhu wondered why he would bring it back if he didn't have a contract with him. He went to get his phone number and then, like the same employee, he went to meet someone who was the girlfriend of the Korean employee. She was also a Korean employee and let the three of them go to the cafe to talk. Now the Korean girlfriend has just revealed the stories her boyfriends have done. But here, two people went out to eat together at a Korean restaurant and encountered a meeting price to exchange debt. Not long after, the Korean employee seemed worried as if he was talking about something. When the girlfriend asked, She found out that Han's landlord was a customer of Han's staff at Han Ying Ta, in charge of writing contracts for this. When the restaurant owner and inquiring staff looked at their records, he confirmed that there was no problem for the restaurant owner to qualify for some money. But it turns out that the restaurant staff is a character, even though this restaurant is destined to be a private business. However, the salesperson still uses sweet words to keep customers for a few dollars. Tell them that you can wait until the next minute for the bank to give you some money. One knows that some of the industrialists in other places will turn around and be forced to shut down. His girlfriend knew that the employee was working at a dirty job and immediately broke up with him. She can't bear the thought of her boyfriend ruining other people's lives. Zhong Zed took the documents he found at the employee's home and ransacked a copy of the name on it. Why isn't the name of the operator? What does it mean? This is actually quite simple. Usually the customer's name will be written on the contract. If the customer is someone else's name, write the name of the person below. This is a very important thing that Zhong Zed immediately returns to life. He wanted to check the documents and unexpectedly had everything with the same name, which was the name of the interbank group. Zhong Su also gradually realized the initial speculation that Quan Lian was the one who harmed the restaurant staff. Zhong Su's next plan will be easier to identify when the target is determined. The person Zhong Su has not yet started to act Zohu, has started an investigation report for the 4th exhibition asking him to reveal the bank to him. To prepare to deal with the investigation, the bank director held a 4-term meeting with the interbank group. Lian Tam's 4-Power Department's platform received the current investigation only as a suspicion. Fong has any official identity as long as the interbank does not trade and accepts the school's 4th department to ensure that he is okay. The next member of the interbank presented himself to the parachute line and the prosecutor was in charge of questioning. At first, it was still very springy, just as predicted by the 4th school department. Even though he didn't have any real evidence, he just asked Lian a few questions to see how he would react. Even though Tintin suddenly changed the subject, he started talking about the company's limited number of employees. Lian An Than's form of lifting and lifting links is also made for gender. Some said that on the evening of the 4th, before the case was announced, the officer had gone to his house. The official statement is to persuade employees to self-reflect. Of course, the next day, Li's son was not healed, so he reasoned that his son was on vacation so he had to stay at home. But according to information from the school, Li's son is still attending school. Zhong Shu also discovered that all the members had been unlucky for the past few months, and the two of them had not been together. Although he guessed that both of them would go to the system, there was no reason to advise the welding staff. Moreover, Lai came to Han's house completely voluntarily and did not meet her in advance. Did he have a pre-arranged plan for her behavior? Lai started to feel confused and tried to find a reason to say that the Korean employee was a close junior, so she was giving advice. Even though taking out 2 pictures of streaks will save time if it takes time to create the field system and increase the body. Then the time is definitely off schedule. Even though he didn't give him the chance to create a photo, he took the picture 15 years ago. Please like Li's Don Su Horai did he hide Staffan in the same place as the Tajiap man 11 years ago, and Li was so confused that the prosecutor tried to keep him. The prosecutor did not just talk about the serious injury to the victim. The Mandarin gave the documents found at the employee's house to reveal his information. This is the motive of Li's siege. He harmed the staff and told the children the truth about the victims, and even took the opportunity to push out all the faults. Up Staffan, Pong team members were given 2 more photos. One wrote that the model in the photo was not his. The psychological wind of the logic completely pervades the governor and lifts him from the outside. Zhong Su and the team members immediately began to explain what happened that night. He actually used to get into conflicts with the welding staff. In the process of concussion, Li was injured and fainted. The staff thought he had passed away. On our side, Lai woke up and took the opportunity to attack the welding staff without taking any action against him. After flirting with Vin Han, the two of them were truly in love with each other. Nin Vin Han will take the blame for accepting bribes instead. Done. I still don't believe the logic of 50 years ago. Right now, it's easier to think of Nin Vin Han as such, constantly asserting that he is not a company or a person. Lai Wind, the man 50 years ago, gave this gift to life because he felt sorry for the victim's family. At that time, the man was also a character who made sure he was determined to buy him a degree. After the incident, he discovered that a family was involved in a suicide plan to buy houseworms because of high mental pressure. including his young daughter. He felt conscience-stricken, so he thought of leaving the family to expel the crime. When Kwong Lee was immersed in the past, the parachute suddenly changed. He knew that the manager was not the one. The parachute just wanted to use the company's work to stimulate the talent to tell the secret to the character. Fong suspected that the team cooperated quite well. He realized that he was being beaten, but it was too late that the team manager was arrested on 3 counts of accepting illegal bribes and causing trouble to the point of ruining his career. After that, the bank manager immediately announced to the show that all 4 reported that the kiss was a match to find out the marriage book, which resulted in a proud look on the kisser's face, which said that now the kisser wanted to be a good person who would stand on the side of the bet. At this time, Hae and Yang went to look for employee Han's girlfriend because even though there was a new discovery, the previous writing on the loan application compared to Han's staff was different from the previous writing on the report. Peace's letter of denunciation and the fake job just happened to be carried out by the village girl. This girl begins to confess to her the happiest moment of her life is the soul of employee Han on the Citadel. Van's most gloomy moment was when his righteous father passed away, and 5 girls, 1 year old, got out of school early one day and happily returned home. Dad hasn't gone to work yet, but today his girlfriend discovered his underwear at the door. He looked for his father all over the house and found him leaving due to mental pressure. At that time, my girlfriend was still young and didn't know what to do. She only knew that her father was crying and asked why her father left her. Why? When the restaurant's girlfriend grew up, she learned the truth. At the restaurant, she met a group of people who were deeply in debt when she heard the restaurant staff tell stories about people. His girlfriend tried searching through bank records to find out that her father's company was also a bankruptcy victim. The woman must have contacted the local bank and told the clerk about this. The sold-off employee promised to personally disclose all secrets about Cho's character to the police. The girl decided to give him time to wait until he was faced with the girl. The victim's relatives still cannot make a decision. That day, Lee and the Korean staff came out to argue that the Korean girl was also present at the scene. She thought that Ban Chai would be hard and fight against the Lee. The staff under this position are not responsible for the welding staff, but they are very careful when dealing with banks. Will stand up for the crimes on his behalf. His Korean girlfriend is extremely fond of him. After spending hours together, the Korean girl appeared. If you're planning on having sex with your boyfriend, everyone will know what happens next. This Korean girl lost her life's happiness because of revenge for her father. Of course, she has nothing to apologize for. She just has to pay a price first. The Korean girl was so close to the Americans that Yang felt sad about her story. Later, when he returned to the office, he discovered that there was a device inside that was a self-reported emergency. When she learned the truth, the government was probably investigating the case to find out if she was the victim. Kia Young immediately went to investigate and discovered that the published article was the 5th edition without revealing the investigator's identity, while the article she had was the first published version. Kia Young immediately went to find a way out before facing the most painful thing in her life. That Young was the person who had divorced his parents and turned out to be his superior. Oh Young, don't give any like teachings. Hae Young can't continue to look at the face. Oh Young has already decided before, even though he hastily changed to a new I Hae Young, but she couldn't thank him. Young immediately called a car to go, but when he arrived, Hae Young just realized that she had forgotten her address and phone number in the interview room. The parachute line appeared to help you. Young didn't pay for the car. Young didn't thank him and even turned off the line, even if someone let him follow me. Although the line is extremely strict, he is not sure Hae Young because he understands that she is busy waiting for Hae. The seller promised to return the money even though he still stubbornly followed after going out to eat. Ben asked Ari Hang to investigate why he had completely regained his sanity. Kong Lai knew that Ari Hang didn't have any evidence to come to him to get a statement. As long as Kong Lai didn't open his mouth, he still had a chance to escape. But Ari Hang is not an ordinary person. He has murdered people to investigate this matter, which has been widely reported publicly. Through very clear understanding, this is actually not the truth. This is still considered a way to help the patient. However, around the time of death, Oe was married and married to his family. Oe is a lonely guy who has nothing to lose. He will do anything to expose the truth, unlike the Reason who has many concerns. Faced with the Oe's troubles, people's banks are being forced to pay their salaries at the same time that the deputy manager is also monitoring the situation of their customers. She came to negotiate with the Attorney General because she also worked at the bank, so she was being kept in the dark. The deputy also wanted to secretly criticize the great, but from Oe's point of view. At the end of the sutra, it is entirely possible that there is no need to be enlightened because of old age and mud. The views of Kin and Ouyang are different, and there are things she must do to keep the bank's business running to the remote world standard. Because Ouyang does not want to transfer, he will make a decision to make the information public for transfer. More specifically, he also said that the leader of the country was also talented. Thanks to the strength of Ouyang, there is hope that things will not be made fun of by children. Ouyang's active spirit made his superiors angry. The first person to mention was Tae Dun. Mr. Ta called Ouyang to Tae Dun's office so he could skip the matter publicly. Why did he have to take away both life and childhood? The opposing side said that Tae Dun's superiors never received any warning about the bank incident, asking Mr. Ta how to explain to Mr. Trung. Ouyang still calmly replied to Mr. Ta, "Mr. Tae Dun, please explain as Mr. Ta instructed." Only now did Tae Dun realize that Ouyang was beyond Mr. Ta's control. Tae-zoon also only has 2 cards left, Ouyang and 4 cards. Doang did not continue to visit the country. He came to think that Ouyang transferred to the king to protect his wife. Hearing that, Ouyang began to negotiate that leaving the bank again was just part of the plan. Behind the Zancho Bank is the Group B Kiwi King and Tatu Budung, who will be out for 15 years, also compared to Kiwi Thou. At first, Ouyang thought that Tae-zoon's cooperation with the B Group to look like the new assistant director was a joke. It is said that she is a person who colluded with the authorities but said that she caused the West to suffer karma. Tae Dun has been considered a joke for the past 15 years. In fact, from the beginning, Tae Dun was difficult to betray people. He became a deep person and also had a human name. Mr. Young's goal as deputy director of Kim is not only to expose her true face. Mr. Young also wanted a piece of mandarin for himself and fried rice noodles. Hearing that, Tae Dun also stood aside and finally agreed to let Mr. Young continue to investigate. A rather large calf came to thank the thunderstorm after coming out with the help of his father's name for crispy umbrellas. Indeed, the parachute helped him avoid the case, causing the 4th Department staff to quickly become happy. Even though he was cleared of the case, he was admitted to the corruption book, and this book is about to be published. Having been exposed to a crazy amount of pain, his face began to turn a little pale. He quickly ran to find Tae Dun to ask for help. At this time, Tae Dun was very talkative. He called the Department of Development to his office to plan an investigation into the right scandal. The Department of Trung Department of 4th Ward arrived and was met by a lady outside the door. She said that Tae Dun did not want to meet the Trung Department of 4th Ward. If he doesn't want the night to belong, he'll be afraid to obediently apply before the 4th School District Office and he'll be fine. On the other hand, turn over the old and present Precious to see the Deputy Director Kim. He has the Dangerous Plug and the Western Jun. Revealing the past, and now Kiwi knows that Tae Dun will not miss this opportunity to investigate the current situation with a group of Nai Kiwi. Only Deputy Director Kim can save the situation. And now I hope that she will stand on my side. And the Deputy Director is a bit hesitant. Now you immediately threaten her if you don't want to be determined because of the problem. When he was defeated, when he tried to help him wake up, the stubborn Deputy Director had to agree. However, both of them had to think of a way to wake up their kindness when they were in such a hurry to do something else, making these 2 big things so scary. This governor, under the direction of the priest, began a trial investigation. The entrance with 12 professional vehicles practicing the BQD group is the biggest achievement in the past 5 years. On the Pine and Takeaway, experts predict that the BQD group will not reveal the song. It will not be able to overcome the wind. Dog Wen Tae-zoon and the BQD group are in a fierce battle despite trying to find a way to subdue DA. Young goes back to work. In peace, Young gave all the reasons before the plane refused to return to bed. After that, Zhu suddenly remembered the car payment he had paid for him. That official thought the same thing even though he immediately calculated the number 12. Made him think everything was over. Zhu still tried his best to continue these 2 years. Young was painfully exposed to the account, but Zhu said that Young was not like that. Then Zhu wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. Young owed her love to solve some unfinished business. I have a plan that I can use in exchange for 2 cares. Thunderstorm Parachute offers enough calls from VA. Young had to decide to end the parachute line. But VA, Young started the above meat work and couldn't stop. The blueprint has just been released even though other work has been arranged VA. Young continued to work until he discovered it. The next morning, the new parachute line appeared to be VA. Young thought the parachute line. I'm about to lean on the stream even though something new makes me excited again. Unexpectedly, the parachute line would change the piece of the VE bridge. Young came to the office to complete the job transfer procedures. I don't know what's going on in my head. Young is holding a file on the other side. This is the document given to him by the wind avoiding the T, documenting a major event in a small group of errors made up of a number of karma, stuck in being able to determine whether company C builds a line even though it is one of them. Even though it is a company owned by my wife, this shows that I have more or less joined Gay House. According to speculation, the consecutive bankruptcies of companies related to the conspiracy and manipulation of people in Gay House were behind the manipulation. Even though the TC led to the country, they will probably keep the Tiger File. Just getting the Tiger File can expose the charges of visiting the West who used to come here without success. It seems very fair. He asked OE to eat heavily to give a report at the West's main lead to the parachute line that stimulated only his mine. However, they had to migrate to the West despite their intelligence. The line of parachutes quickly guessed that this was the main report of the West leading to the parachute. Although it is said to be a powerful weapon to attack the Western airborne, the airborne line does not make you happy to pass early. On the contrary, you have to be even more careful. According to the umbrella line, past and present, you, the Deputy Director and the Director of the 4th Department, all had hatred towards Tae Dun. Even though the story is quick, using obstacles is the 5th Department to deal with the Western Dun story. Although it's still a bit unimpressive because the story appears quite simple. Zhongzhu. I wonder who is the supplier of the ingredients and what is the purpose of the ingredients being made from wind to make tea and even to making tea. Holding the points of C Company, Zhu could not act on his own. Zhongzhu, considering the entire national test, only tried to avoid becoming a capable person. Dad was reported to Zhu by CS government. He had been undercover for 15 years to try to bite the Western boss. At that time, Zhongzhu also spent 15 years trying to find evidence to prove that his father must have had enough information to act. Dongsu is truly worthy of being a person who doesn't care about money. Until the thunderstorm comes to see you, Yang procedure is just Kaido. He again explained that Yang had asked for help from the previous day to find a room to write about that year, to ask about the situation of the family's case and then need to ask whether to stay or marry. Dongsu has done everything he can. The only thing left to do is see how he chooses. Hi, she hesitated for a long time, and in the end, decided to immediately follow the lady's call to go to the room, to inquire about the case so that the blind word used 15 years ago to call to recall the painful memories of the present. The officer said that the person behind it all was the deputy who had set fire to both the West End and the Yang nest. Chu Yang knew he was on fire and went back to the victim's house. It was decided that they had left due to mental pressure, only to discover that Yang was still alive. With that, Yang went to the emergency room. After learning about the above frequency, Yang immediately went to meet Yang's boss. I want to thank you for saving my mother. Oh, Yang didn't mind. He let him try and let everyone else go. Yang only hated the last 2 people who were identified. Not long after a move that didn't move the entire city, a company that believed to be profitable had become the group's largest asset. This information is aimed directly at Quinn Troy Pants Group about Kui. There are rumors that the person behind Loi Kui is Tae Dun. After seeing the news of the deal and unable to keep calm, she immediately asked to avoid taking action. If it's not the first time now, it will never be. The group side is now demanding full refund of the portion that cannot even protect reasonable rights. The words from the past are now precious, but they are a reference from Vice President My Man. Deputy Kak Kim sent him a message. He could proceed according to the plan she had given him, but now he cherished the opportunity to invite Tae-zoon. Meanwhile, Tae-zoon wants to harm Z dump trucks by conducting a substitution with the rival company. Thus, people will misunderstand that Tae-zoon is standing on the side of the chariot. Even the incident from a few years ago was revealed that Tae-zoon had exposed 27 green karma. Led by the landowner who bought Zoom, amid the explosion of anger, this should have been a good time to attack Tae-zoon. But the Zoom storm makes me feel uneasy because it all looks so similar to the same Tae-zoon, hiding it so carefully. Now that it's peeled off again, it will look like someone is hiding behind it. The line advises everyone to calmly observe this situation, not to rush and let others do the right thing to see how they react. Oh, peace. I've been accepting jobs for many years and it's been very difficult to get the next opportunity, so why don't you do anything? At this time, the 4th exhibition came to meet the monkey. He was very curious as to why the monkey did not use the parachute. Even since the parachute line appeared, their jobs have all been exposed. Even the 4th Department believes that this incident is also similar to the fact that the people around the rhino are one after another frustrated with the rhino's ability to definitely recognize Dong no matter who he is targeting. I didn't expect that I would stop laughing. He just wanted to take advantage of Zhongsu to leave the 4th Department. It was only here that the 4th Department realized that the rhinoceros was indeed a dangerous person. Just because they knew that the Department of Education and Training was in collusion with other people, they immediately cut off the land around the previous site. Even though B came to meet Ouyang in the office, he still wanted Ouyang to think again. This is not the time to attack, but Ouyang has decided to go forward even if he can only follow his opinion. They will proceed to investigate the Western vehicle to build a parachute, but this will have trouble. If you can't find evidence of a parachute, the first request is to meet with the whistleblower who said the Western parachute was connected to a parachute vehicle. To make sure this person is okay, it is necessary to check to avoid being a person who is always confused between the Western and the Vicekin. Need to be very sure who he is. To do this, Ouyang, prepare to avoid the investigation of civil occupations including the permission of the Western Jun and the Deputy Tribune. After avoiding the investigation, the civil servants were recruited into two types. One type related to the report of the sutras is mainly the investigation to obtain the sutras. The rest related to Tae Dun Kashu has been investigated carefully, but it is not a bit old. According to this, I have personally avoided the T-body and stood on the side of the opposition. The two things that were considered to be done are already flowing, and everyone can start taking action. On the other hand, the vice president of the criminal system operates where there are no criminals in this society and there is no permanent friend. There is a president who hopes to end the struggle. By using the flower vase method, you want to try it right away, which appears after the vice president lists you. Feel unsatisfied. He was about to go to the vice president to say another condition, which was to help him abandon the old rules and vices. Only now did he feel a bit of enjoyment. Even though he was a different person when he returned home, he was careful before taking action to see if he had enough abilities to deal with the surveillance attack, and at this point the officer thought that the NUM and the BAQE group had cut off the relationship, but with the personality of the NUM, he should not easily give up on the police because this is a huge force. Like Dung Dung suspected that Tung Dung and the old calves were acting out. These two people had absolutely no separation. Their goal was to destroy the burial, but Dung Dung went to the office all night to report this to Ouyang. Ouyang's job was to determine the relationship between NGO Dung and the old calves. If they really had broken it up, then we could act decisively. If not, we should stop before being played by Num Dung. Ouyang will go about his relationship like a parachute when a person comes to build a parachute to investigate. However, the president appeared to be pointing the finger at the hospital for all the wind control work and denied responsibility. The deputy director refused to cooperate with the investigation even though a search warrant was required. Suddenly, he received a call from Ouyang Anta and discovered that he had an understanding with Vice President McAway. Their cooperation conditions were abandoned, showing that the relationship between Tae Dun and him had broken down. The vice president of the training program had his money cancelled for the West to use this information. Oh, it was taken from the school department. She is very pitiful. Even if we can get rid of our concerns, we can finally conduct a full investigation. First, we will search and build a parachute. If the director needs a search warrant, then use the parachute for someone to get it. The good people rushed to the front door to prevent private destruction and save the government. When the search warrant arrived, the 5th Department began to act aggressively despite leaving this place for colleagues. Who do you follow? Ying went somewhere else until the two of them went to the monk's construction site to set up an umbrella. No matter what, detect problems without thumbnails. The places where the extraction was completed were still being moved. Although he was about to feel uneasy, he thought that the monk who built the parachute had long since ceased to be a civilian business, but was just a cover to carry out some kind of business. Although suspicions were related to numbness later, Zhong, even though the camp immediately went to look for him. Should you stop driving tea and cars to set up even though you don't say anything, you're not fake? But parachute thunderstorms can be distinguished based on the first time the parachute river is used for testing. He was exposed to the wind like the wives at that time were numb and could not look the river in the eye. He quickly concluded that even if he looked coldly in the eyes, lying without looking in the eyes would be telling the truth. Now numbing even if he looked coldly in the eyes, even if he said he would stop talking, it meant he wanted to continue. Just like an umbrella, all caution should be removed from the machine's calendar and the construction of a parachute. The co-workers who executed the search warrant for the organizer were also brought in for protection. As safe as an umbrella, immediately build a parachute. On the same road, although receiving information about construction, whether it has shouldered money from many companies from humanity, no debt is today. The parachute was extremely confused and did not understand if there was anything new that could suggest that the cause could be used to build an umbrella. It is necessary to investigate the idea of forcing another port to go to the main owner of the new company. The extremely shocking result is that the property of the ancient calves has nothing to do with the Western land. Oh, Young realized exactly what the line was, even though he expected them to be hit by a fire from the West. Western cooking and peeling precious calves are not easy to divide. The relationship between them is still as problematic as it has been for many years. Young began to feel worried about the year with the warrant to search Lao books and the finance department of the construction of the Chang, even though he was shaken by the situation here. A comedy star planning to build a parachute will face the biggest bankruptcy in history. They falsified the books to siphon a lot of money from private companies. If private companies build luxury products, they will also cause harm. This is a description of what happened when I bought it myself 15 years ago, even though I was so confused that I had to quickly find fake soup. But the problem they face is not only that they receive warnings, but the accuser has been sensitive since the beginning of the year. He rushed back because of the irreversible situation. And he still has no intention of stopping. At this time, Zhang Zed went to Director Xiong's office, but there was no one here. Zhang Zed discovered that his father's black book was placed on the table when an evil truth occurred. For the past 5 years, Zhang Zed has tried to protect his father. In the end, Zhang Zed's father is the only survivor. Zhang Zed was completely exposed to the truth. Suddenly, it turns out that his father and mother were actually honest, secretly working for the corporation. Since his time in the family, Mr. Zhu is now a young man who has a lot of things to do. On the contrary, NGO Deng is a very upright person who does not surrender to power or national honor before money. NGO's wife was seriously ill, but he had no money to pay the bills. Deng went to his father to ask for help, but he did not expect that his father would also put pressure on him. If you don't want to build a shelter like that, then don't expect to receive the money. If you don't want to violate your father's conscience, your heart will watch his daughter die without even taking a penny. This was also the drop of truth that made him completely depressed. After his wife went to heaven, he was no longer as strong as before. He turned into a different person. Cai Duong agreed with his father to help him deal with the consequences of the case so he could buy it for his own use. The wind calms the father's spirit, and even though he plans for the person, he will later issue a case to kill and buy content. One family, because of emotional pressure, did not ask their father to leave even though he was the first to arrive at the scene. When he saw someone die, he received a funeral, and only then did his father know about it. As for the girl from that house, the girl carrying her is the boss. Cockroaches are like fathers even though they are all types of people. But life doesn't have many lines even though he follows his father's style of walking on the road. After a while, Yang went to the governor's office to look for a parachute. I also saw the altar book in the village and knew that the cause of the family's death was the parachutist's father. Hi everyone, Yang feels extremely sad. But the most pitiful person to talk about is Tizun. He knows all the truth and is also the one who can tell everything. After his wife passed away, he told Tizun the truth about everything. He was his father's beloved sister. The ministry knew that Tae-dun had gone down, but at first Tae-dun didn't believe it because he always considered his father bad even though he was a good version. But in one case, perhaps God was about to send Tae-dun to find his father's black book. Having fun with him, I can also perceive and accept his words without any further investigation or deception. From then on, Tae-dun continued to intend to change the political domain and not accept any fake people who reported his wife's defense. In addition, in the reality of Tae-dun opening, they reported that they were exposed to the wire transfer specialist even though they had received a few loans from the bank to transfer money. The clown has secured 2 mortgages with only one bottom condition, which is that the approval will build a house to find a reason for blaming Tae-dun on why he chose to build a house even though because this is Tae-dun's father-in-law's company. It's better to manage the vegetables than to help his father-in-law comply with the standards. Even if the person lending money to the construction company is looking for a loan from the deputy director of the bank, it is also the responsibility of the deputy inspector. If we take advantage of this opportunity, it will be of great benefit to the deputy director of the investigation, so that even if we receive it, we will deliberately seek bankruptcy. The damage caused by the luxury goods is not great, but private companies that build luxury goods will eventually go bankrupt. This harm cannot be further estimated, and the situation is also linked to the turtle. After that, private companies will buy back the small products at a fair price and also get an undisclosed amount of bribe money. If you build a roof full of Western clothes and people work under living conditions, it's true that the West is too high-handed. With just one move, it seems like it will immediately solve all opponents. The Department of Justice has assigned people to build the company even though it went bankrupt, especially when one of the previous letters was decided to be placed under the position of receiving the debt. Now, Owen realized that he had made the wrong move from the first move and that his hope was in vain. Owen tried unsuccessfully to ask why he had to go to this extent. Turns out he didn't succeed and wanted to cover the case so that he could use that year to cause his company to go bankrupt. He has been waiting for the opportunity until now, and he loves to flatter himself because he is stubborn enough to avoid becoming a good person. In this year's competition, there is still a chance to flip the bottom pool. You just need to find a good manager. Preventing the construction of parachute ferry products proves that the West's confusion is a false indication that the situation can be reconciled. The problem is that even though he is currently thinking, he cannot accept his father's true face. Like Dung Dung looked at the copper plate that protected his father's organ, he angrily threw it to the ground on the other side, paying tribute to Dung Dung to the hospital to consult his father-in-law. Now he has nothing left to hide. The director had been manipulated by T. Dung for a long time. He hoped that his father-in-law could maintain his acting power and soon ruin the road because he was angry and had to keep quiet to see how things were built no matter how he destroyed them. His father-in-law was so angry that he couldn't speak. After returning from the hospital, I came to Tae Dun An and wanted to know a problem. Why does Tae Dun have to go to this extent? It's because he wants to see his father's reaction when he knows his father's true face. John, a current parachutist working in the West, remembers the scene at the end of his journey to meet his parachutist father. At that time, the parachutist was still doing a fake job under the influence of doing illegal things. The West is in dire need of the umbrellas of the father of the parachute line, and his signal is only one: the future of the parachute line. If the father of the umbrella line does not have enough Western instruments, it will destroy the umbrella line. Even though his father knew that Westerners wanted to be conservative, he was forced to open the bottle and become a wealthy person. Even though the father understands that he himself has some certainty, the greatest certainty still belongs to the West. He would not have been able to save his Asian version if he did not have ambition. Why did the Westerners have to come and build a palace even though they agreed to reduce the governor's position against his father-in-law? Why does he have to approach the corporation's guilty person now? Isn't it difficult for a young man to aspire to become a leader? Even if his father, even if he acts on his late wife, is just a door for him to reveal his true nature, this is the path he completely blazed for himself. Even though his situation changed, he was miserable because of the fact that he had passed away, but after thinking about it, there is no longer any problem. Even if his father, even if he tells the story, is not a good person in this world, no one is completely good, but the most hidden person in this matter is still he was so numb that he did not expect the line to be so gentle. The conversation was not polite at all, even though I wanted to numbly wait to see what he would do to expose his face so he could continue to play a few more victims. On the other side of the exhibition, his grandmother is currently working at the supervisory desk. He specifically came to investigate the case of the deceased whistleblower. According to the whistleblower's wife, he was taken to the surveillance table to take testimony even though he had defied the whistleblower. At the same time, she also has the opportunity to be conservative in her lineage. Even though she is upright and not afraid of being investigated, she also wants to know that she will cooperate with him when she marries him. Even if he becomes a good person, he will return to study as soon as possible. Hello Zomzu's observation. Currently everything is going according to Tsu's plan. In the same year, I encountered the problem of being restrained without a corner of my head and being sultry, being dismissed, and the suppression was also before Tsu. There is no longer a competitor for Zomzu and everyone is still trying to think of a way to have the strength to counter the situation or just leave everything to Tsu's will. On the side of the BQE group, the vice president was arrested and taken to the group's room. After the murder of his father, he turned his face to the West and used his actions to target the group of old boys and girls, and suddenly took power under the president's abandoned son. First of all, after taking power, they will overturn the old rules and organize a number of meetings where they will cooperate to make the vice president completely independent. Plus, the group's initial offer for cooperation was a bit hesitant, so he started to lower the price. In the price of Giap Giam, a crowd of people who couldn't sit down and quickly agreed to the terms of the old turtle. At this time, despite the current situation, Young tried to reverse the situation. With bad information, Young discovered that the whistleblower who had just passed away worked in illegal international economic sectors. This makes it seem like the name of the hat contains extremely important information. The truth is that the child who is presumptuous in receiving this mantra cannot see through it. That's why we let him take power now. If it is wrong, the people of the nation's audience will not let a foreigner take the lead. Reversing the truth can be the secret card to defeat the West. If his nationality is fake, he can be immediately deported and ask the country to break the Western cooperation, and overturning the abuse of this to make the relationship between those two people completely an idea. Create violence. But this cannot last, because you guys are now having a hard time solving the bankruptcy problem of luxury construction. Oang's side can't let the weapon be used again. And Ta is used in and to say that the dress after the kiss is on the side of the year. This early kiss time has this intention. Oh, I want to remind you to kiss one thing. According to information, the whistleblower has a daughter who broke off the relationship with her child. In the cases of marriage, they went to the daughter's house to find out the situation. Tin Yen hasn't been able to kiss a girl, only meets a boy, and a rather pitiful young man who seems to have no one. In Squirrels, Geo kissed the child to buy food and then called to inform Oan. Oang asked the hero to continue watching the family. Perhaps the daughter knew something. At this time, the vice president came to meet the old lady, and it turned out that the two of them were brother and mother. The vice president wondered what would be the benefit of harming him. The president has not yet passed away, with a limited number of lives that no one can completely control. Now you, the vice president, has gone wild and plundered your past. Now your goal is not just to kick your head. The vice president and even the president were targeted. To this extent, the old rules are now precious. There is nothing left to hide, so he is now precious to be conservative. In the 1920s, the old rule was now a luxury resort in Hosiei-do, every day receiving shade under the harsh sunlight just to earn a little money to grow flowers. One day today, I received information that the president would come to visit. The old law now has a feeling that you want to see what his father is like. The old rules are now precious, and my mother was abandoned by the president at a young age. The mother's mother is considered to be taking advantage of her welfare. Although he always admired his father's attack and defense, he also had a bit of hope. A little bit of precious time will turn your mouth from a poor wanderer into a person trying to hide things. All that means is that the old law now makes you listen to your father's poems so heartlessly that he doesn't even look at him. Even just because of a small mistake, President Lian ordered someone to handle the old and now precious law. Then he decided to kick his father down on his wife's mouth and began to act. When he brought the parachute back to the ceremony, he declared that he had installed a listening device in the parachute station, thanks to which his wife learned that in the parachute office there was an important document when he went to deal with the transfer of the parachute canister construction. The podium revealed that the grandmother broke into the office to steal documents from the other side of the house, wanting to prevent the construction of the condominium and property before having to solve the problem of money. Even though she discovered that the condominium building still had some land worth millions to sell, it was expected to be able to sell for about 20,000 money, but at the moment, it was impossible to sell that property. Only one company took the opportunity to make huge profits and buy back a large amount of land. But if the king's market goes bankrupt, he will also be taught to fight against his company. The most important thing right now is that the selling time already takes a few days to do under self-construction. Even if you have 12 hours to get up and decide to settle the bill. Ted is already half over, and there is another way to sell the company. Quickly said there was a hater who bought everyone, but he didn't know that that person was the one who stripped them of their past, and what kind of sister did he end up with. And the next day, the line was again investigated by the guy in his shirt and told the official that he was preparing the same schedule as last time. But it didn't work out, and the line used to come to see if the situation would be serious. She tried to relax and go in. Even though he still didn't show any emotions, this time even Westerners came to watch for fun. Even though she encountered a lot of problems, she tried to give out documents for everyone to consult and use. The monk said he would stand on his side together to crush the parachute. But last year, every statue of everyone. I suspect that the strong wind will help the same to cause the story of the woman's death in the evening. He used evidence to accuse people of guilt even though he was threatening to accuse people. Even though he had only half a bud bloomed, everything had been arranged by him. Now it was time to start the counterattack. The small term aimed at the defendant's wife even though he asked him about his relationship with the accuser's wife. Trang Than Trang said she didn't know the river even though she immediately took the GUI to call her. Trang Than Trang and Cao Cao's wife had been to the island many times but still said they weren't familiar with it. Trang Than Trang immediately felt stressed. And Ta's comment continued to bite the organ and try to get out. Trang Than Trang often receives messages from wealthy people. And Ta believes that good people's wives are among them. Although Zong saved the phone number of a good man's wife there, Trang Than Tra's phone number would be erased with just one call. The phone call from Than Tra Zellin, and the note was that she was a fake person, but she told the lie that she was a fake person. Avoid becoming a guard and the situation becomes blind. He continued to state that there was a problem with the use of whistleblowing, so he was unlucky enough to be investigated by the whistleblower. Although Thunderstorm took out a video of the day when Thunderstorm even went to meet the person who told him to avoid the investigation, he also came. Avoid investigation and remove related surveillance footage. If you talk nonsense even if someone accuses you, then avoid being investigated for doing something that you don't know. Than Cia became worried that if he stayed, it would cause big trouble. Mr. Ta became inferior. His daughter is so good that she can testify that Than Cha has threatened her mother. The writer also has evidence that Than Cha could not have imagined that life was the smell of an umbrella storm. But and Ta himself is the one who suffers from apoplexy, so thank you for the soul protection. And Ta not only helps with storms, umbrellas, even brought the daughter of a good man as a witness. Tin Yen Geo Hone faces a difficult problem to resemble, that is, to combine the same idea with Tae Dun. How should he deal with the new system for this child? On the other hand, the issue of parachute construction was stopped by the decision of the majority of that company. One knows that the life of winter learning is very simple. Tia and Ieng found out that someone wanted to buy and build a chandelier even though it was an old car. But one knows that the acquisition is not to ask a private company to build an umbrella, and he is determined to always have an umbrella. In the construction of the parachute, 5 holds a part in Bakua's bets if these shares, according to the ancient law of Bakua's actions, completely restrain Bakua's group's movements. Bakua's peaceful plan of the ancient law has been seen through by fate. At this time, even though Bakua had won a great victory over the ancient law, he still lost miserably. Not only did he not get the part of building the parachute, but he also agreed to take the responsibility. She often receives dried herbs in a jar that is legitimate according to the ancient law of Bakue. The deputy governor will be upfront and actively cooperate with the investigation. Although she said that she confessed her guilt, in fact she was creating a way to help herself. As for Tae Dun, the fate of the old roof now makes him not easy to summon. After all, the two are in a cooperative relationship. The Western Duns still retain the afternoon that provoked the demonstration of the ship. The leader of the Hock Hop family in the Small Lips family has no better moral conduct, and is only accused of committing abuse of power. During the investigation of the parachute truck company, they were involved in corruption. The protesters want the highest leadership to blame Oe for eating the situation. Uneasily, he quickly called N's office. He and Oe assured him that the situation would be resolved. To ensure safety, we definitely do not let the vehicle set up an umbrella or product. If there is a problem with the car going to Oe to eat, we will also stand up and take full responsibility, and we will not neglect the director. But the director is a smart person, whether it's the deputy director's change or the idiot's betrayal. He was looking at the wind, but the director was mistaken in thinking that not caring was the best solution. To put it bluntly, the director was not serious about using people. In the first half, he planned to pit the two men against each other to test their abilities. As a Tet gift, the director dug his heels in when things developed to this point. He must have a solid career. Now the director only knows a lot of products and clothes to solve the problem. The chief priest will help him secure the last letters before he asks for this position. Even though the dark storm comes, we can find the past and present, according to the information that will be appointed in 2020. The past and present are always overlooked in Japan. After 2020, the two presidents are now defeated, and he wants to find his hat model again. That's it. The past and present have come to the lucky presidents. The problem with milk is that it is an illegitimate child. What can you get from now on? Although the storm man had thought about a problem for a long time, he announced the storm even though his army had been defeated. Obedience and failure turn over the past and now are precious. Love in stormy times, even if discovered, is hidden inside, but hidden inside, the storm can't remember, which is the real card. 20 years ago, in the past, Bo Quiet, while in Japan, Dad was a regular drinker of Han mother of the old Bo Quiet. One day, the mother protested that the father's sudden departure was real. According to the witness's description, that year, the old beggar returned and liberated the house. The problem is that the old law is now precious, as evidenced by the leaky alibi egg of the father's leaky father who committed a crime at the same time. The Pan say that it goes along with the old law. Now the second quarter of the case occurred in two different areas. From the police's point of view, the leaky son's Tuan statement is more convincing than the latter. And this bad boy is the director of the company who always goes by the rules of the past and now. The two people's relationship is very complicated. Both a cooperative relationship and a partnership that harms their father. Just a small move can show a simple relationship with both bosses in a situation of loss and death. Talk to the sex director early and ask for evidence and testing. Today, Jiang Du brought evidence to meet Li Xiaoqui not to deal with Khan but to ask Khan Rao to show evidence related to Tae Du. The evil of the lineage, even if there is only one lineage, is still very weak. He has committed the crime of stripping the past and present precious things to the West. If you don't take action first, you will be ruined. That is to say, the purpose of the umbrella order is to offer two people to exchange for each other. If you can't easily be deceived, you won't believe that the Western director will move your mouth. At this time, the vice president went to meet the West in the situation. The person who offered him the attractiveness only needed to stand on his side not only in the situation. If a Western country wants to be president, that's fine. On the contrary, the vice president's only condition is to abandon his past and present treasures. Tae Dun is a bit active, even though after peeling off the past, now the precious things are gone, just taking advantage. Why did the two move out of the crowded restaurant? The year was stormy, even though the door was followed immediately by dozens of photos showing off the old and now precious. The other party was taken away by the prosecutor and suddenly received a photo. Knowing that he was shocked when he met the vice president and realized that he had been betrayed, this was actually a move of the wise. If you are forced into a situation, you will definitely show your cards to deal with the numbness. The prosecutor of the situation tries to expose his past and escape, but there is also someone from the past who is following him. Plus, if you are pushed to this point, you will definitely face confrontation and may even be exposed. Just catch both of them in battle and everything will end perfectly. Now you're lost with Tae-zoon. In just a few sentences, the two of them are already arguing. Suddenly, a Western Zoon movie suddenly appeared on the street and I stopped the car on the side of the road to watch. The East Industrial Park also parked the car to observe the West Zoon and seemed tense. He couldn't have imagined that there would be a movie about Western Zoon harming his father. Taein immediately led him to peel off the old biscuits in the street. Even if there was an accident, the starting point would also be the ending point. It seems that now a person has to pass away and peel off bamboo shoots and vegetables. Fong at that time, Hi Ari, Young discovered that the director of Zoe had just used the former shop. Peace hi everyone. Young couldn't find Director Zoe but instead found Director Thong, and I suspect he hasn't passed away yet and even became Director Zoe's person. At this time, the old defendant had arrived at the meeting point where the prosecutor and the investigation staff were watching from the car. It is very important to be careful when peeling off the old car and dumping the car to avoid unexpected attacks. People may think the car has not yet appeared. Regarding the line, even though it was early on, Young knew that reducing the speed of the problem was still happening immediately. After the incident related to the sexual abuse of the old woman, the victim was judged to have reduced sexual relations. Even though I don't know what kind of raw onion sauce it has, the relationship with the old flip CAQE has been broken. Launch more harmful termites from the sex director's leaks. Tae-don took advantage of this point and sent a police officer to decide to turn over the old calves for two people. Opportunity to test your good image. Even though Jong wanted to call and inform him, he didn't realize that things were getting more and more complicated. The other side showed no signs of hesitation and the car door was blocked by the old-timer. Peeled old biscuits cannot be faked except to reduce the confidence of the breed and smoke more, and again the peeled old biscuits car also has nothing to deliver. I kept thinking about getting out of the car and fighting with the old lady. Uncovering the past, there was no need to wonder why the person who had passed away appeared here. Now there was no time to think about what to do first, when the two of them were fiercely approaching each other. Take the opportunity for the director to think hard about life and retirement and get a fair share of profits. The invisible pressures of work at work in the past and present have an extremely common meaning. Theo quickly called back, making the other person completely passive. Everything happened so quickly that before the people involved understood what was going on, the conversation took a turn that no one expected. In his mind, he had already prepared an extremely reasonable scenario. If there is anyone, they just need to come up with reasons of self-defense and arresting circumstances. Even though I know that in this world, not having to change anything can make me feel as strong as having to ask for it. Tin Yan, the director of the property, believes that it is not easy to be susceptible to price expansion. We do not give the old force any space to build any way back. No one seems to have been left unchecked. The control system can be removed with just a very small action. Is that everything can escape from a safe path? The relationship between the two is so serious that no one involved can safely step out of its predicament. This means that all important rescues are related to fried potatoes. The old turtle and lantern that was kept there also disappeared from anyone's control. Zong is like a shiny file that is blown off the desk by the wind at just the right moment. Although he couldn't hide his displeasure because the show happened in an unexpected way. Vyatzern, on the other hand, could have tried to lighten up the group, but he himself was the type of person who was so suspicious that he did not allow himself to neglect even a small detail. In Taezoon's mind, some big questions began to appear about how he could access the hospital's data on his vehicle. Ladies and gentlemen can only take out 5 within the strict control range right after the line continues to follow the trail and begins to investigate. The sex governor discovers a story. No form in the people for an official use. On it, there is a message containing only the address and the entry and exit password for the sex director's home. The absurd thing is that this legend is said to not be his own. Does a person need someone else to remind him how to enter his house? After the director suddenly disappeared from view, 2 employees of the sex department suddenly disappeared from view. The pluses no longer appear, in which a person is found to be in a state of no longer being able to continue work. The situation in the governor's house made the whole thing even more complicated. Based on my speculation, that phone number most likely belonged to these 2 employees. Those who are assigned to a sensitive case are concerned about the handling of sexual harassment. But on the way to implementation, there were dozens of unexpected problems. When one of them is numbed to more exciting conditions. Reduced internal self-increasing prices, redirection activities, and reduction of situation are used again. Nothing related to the reduction of the speed of shooting is also gradually becoming clear, but in the heart of the storm, there is still a greater doubt. How is Lam, from the past, now he knows some old stories related to his investigation. At that point, no matter how hard it is, thinking about small details, they are put together and finally an important key point appears. West Zoon and Peeling in the past, now you have a cooperative relationship that the termite roll number is black, where every sensitive patient can get it when they really need it. If it is due to the negative information for the old skin, then the Zoon 5 patty numbness is just a matter of time. In order to take the initiative to turn over the past, you must have a person next to you. The assistant was none other than the security director, who was able to access important documents. Looking back at the actions of the sex director will change an unusual point. When he was in a situation, the first thing he did was not actually find a way out but instead return home to collect the drops. This is only suitable if he needs to bring not clothes or silver but items that are enough for himself. Not long after, even though the entire family left, the proactive world once again encountered the Westerners. Let him know that he has the information in hand when it comes to all matters related to him. We must face up to our responsibilities or accept trade-offs. Wow! The Western reputation of building a few Western poppers is of course not an easy person, he said. Even though he was just showing off, even though he appeared calm on the outside, his heart was starting to feel at peace. Immediately, everything related to the parachute flow came out of my body, but the result was still a vague and uncertain state. However, Taezoon was anxious and then he went to see the director of the bureau. Therefore, knowing that the parachute had visited the governor's house when the place had been thoroughly inspected many times without finding anything, he tried to think that the parachute was a diversion. Taezoon decided to speed up his plan, thinking that only when the construction of the parachute line was in an untenable state would he be able to put pressure on the 5th Bureau and take advantage of the opportunity to force the bureau chief to help. Mr. Ta Chin opened 2 steps. River, 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 all support from the government for the construction of parachutes. The second is to ensure that the year cannot reach the director so that this part is available for the exhibition. Under the power of continuous application, the karma that is capable of supporting the main crop is immovable. When everything seemed to be at a standstill, suddenly, Young appeared again and brought him to the mailbox, causing Taekwon to lose his inherent independence. Meanwhile, the teacher changed direction of investigation, not looking for people but looking for money. The kind of boss who has a slim body and a high-ranking mandarin is unlikely to disappear in the dozen main cards with financial connections, and the image of a woman with glasses often appears. But this year, in the first attempt, the trace completely destroyed the entire Western plan to advance, forcing the previous deployment to be no longer necessary. Western use. At this time it can be said that it is so tied that if there were a metal-shaped ladder, it would definitely be a girl. Mr. Ta immediately called the school department, and his great-grandmother came to talk in depth about the errors that had occurred. The great-grandmother had just entered the school's podium, and for a while she was holding gold, telling her that the 5th office still had a chance. If 2 new cases are completed, we can avoid asking for criticism from the supervisory board. The most important matters are the acquisition and construction of parachute canisters. The second case is to recover the full 1.5 billion in damages. Finding a director to follow only solves the wart-related part, but the acquisition is still a headache. T. Jion immediately announced that he would continue to participate in this acquisition. At the same time, Dong strongly believes that if the year still fails to resolve the special Dharma, the exploitation will continue with many expectations. This time, he tried once more at the Immortal Bureau of the 3rd Department. But I don't forget to remind you that tomorrow is the deadline to deal with the 5th Department. If things don't work out, the great-grandfather should probably be given an idea by the gods that can't be solved. Not long after he finished speaking, his son Exo Han suddenly appeared and showed a loyal attitude. Hang is determined that everything is under control and Anta is ready to support her in any way possible. Exo Han, the real killer hit Zun, went into the office to check the computer, thinking that with just a quick look, no one in Taizun would soon realize this unusual behavior that made Exo Han feel both sad and upset. Taizun is unlikely to bring too much, but only asks him to rethink his path. Zohoon really wanted to call the tournament, but the situation was determined that the next day the tournament would be disbanded. He will almost certainly be sent to another department, which Zohoon does not want. I thought I was ready to try it out, and the day came when the decision was made for Taizun to receive a film crew. NHI returned to work despite moving out of the house to reduce the situation and found important reasons that made him begin to feel insecure. Gathering all the plans for the long term, she also asked about the progress of the year, but the answer I received was that everything was going very well. Years of hard work and seriousness without any legitimate reason to continue this boring period. I really don't know how to react at this point, because he did not know that her life had also taken a different direction. Me Nan is the wind that preceded the love affair of the umbrella. The process of writing has been limited and left to no greater extent. He must coordinate with the government to create a perfect site for the rhinos. Kidazun arrived at the hall. Thai Jiangju had already returned for a long time. We still have one last question. Which businesses can afford to buy and build? That GI had been reported by him but still told him to come forward. Jiangju calmly would like that it was the last word of a small branch of the BQI group. If they can merge the two sides, they can still make a big profit, to the point that no one in the BQI group could suspect it. When people were still being told that even if they started to list the West's crimes, from the deep manipulation of power to taking advantage of others for personal purposes, in that situation, the West would finally not be able to continue to despair. The ministry must sadly admit that it all stems from the ambition to get more and more money each time, and not for any political reasons. When you realize how far away you are, you will realize that there is no turning back on the road ahead. Zone continued to release another film showing the truth about the incident in the past. Dao when Tizun took off his old clothes and the sex director appeared and everything was not like Mr. Ta Tin and I. This truth made Tizun almost emotional because he realized that he had been taken advantage of so much. Although Stormy Time also mentioned that the entire conversation is now being revealed in the image that Tizun. After a long period of construction work, his career was completely exhausted and he was no longer able to give up. Anyway, even though he didn't declare the light book, he considered it a necessary tree even though it affected his father's progress, because that is the inevitable consequence of the choices made in reality. After leaving the scene that year, the criminal called to report to the authorities in the hope that everything would be resolved in time. But everything has gone out of control, and now he lives in obscurity and continues to look away and continue to look away. In the end, the parachute line completed its goal and left the National Testing Agency with the intention of accepting the group. Although there are still many remaining issues, colleagues respect that decision. A year later, he became a ready candidate for the position of General Director of the country's government, which was completely worthy of what he had put in. Even though he worked in a small office, his income was not very high, but in return he had peace and security, because in the end, work is the responsibility of every citizen, helping the government make its people more sick and limit the coldest tricks in the government. Long, because one day you will have to spend a lot of time pondering in static space, like there. When I was talking about math, I thought I accidentally got lost and asked for the office piano light.